Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku was the only survivor of Aizawa's Purge. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Hitoshi felt the air leave his lungs. His name was at the bottom of the score list. Even below that creepy, perverted dwarf whose hair looked like a grape. Aizawa Sensei had made it loud and clear, the last one on the list was going to be expelled. Hitoshi didn't have a physical or flashy quirk that he could use in the test. The only way he could use his quirk was in the ball throw, when he called over the girl with the zero gravity quirk and made her throw it for him so that he would get an infinity and his results wouldn't look so mediocre. But he still finished last. He had barely passed the entrance exam, where he'd hit robots left and right with the metal bar UA provided to quirkless kids or kids with non-physical quirks. But that had not borne as much fruit as he had hoped because Hitoshi wasn't in the best physical shape. It was mainly the rescue points he'd earned that had gotten him into the school of his dreams. When All Might's hologram appeared to tell him of his admission, he wasn't ashamed to say that he burst into tears as his mother hugged him effusively. The boy with the villain's quirk was going to be a hero. And now, all that sacrifice and effort seemed to be thrown away by a biased test. He had expected better from Eraserhead, considering that the man's quirk didn't always support him in combat and he sometimes essentially fought quirkless. No one will be expelled. Hitoshi couldn't help it. He collapsed to the ground, covering his eyes with his fists in relief. He lived to see another day. The Gravity Girl and the Mini Ingenium, along with several other classmates, let out exclamations of "What the hell?" "WHY?" and "You scared me?" Their teacher just gave a creepy smile. It was a logical ruse to get everyone to show their full potential. Fortunately, it's not zero. The tall girl with the jet black ponytail, who had finished first on the list, sighed. It was obvious that he wasn't going to expel us. I thought everyone knew. From the reactions of their classmates, it was not obvious. Even Hitoshi gave her a seriously look. The girl flinched in embarrassment. Should I have told you? A tired and collective yes was heard. When they came back from the quirk apprehension test, they noticed a thin, green-haired boy wearing the hero course uniform, with black headphones over his ears, already in the classroom. His head was buried in a notebook labeled Class 1A Quirk Analysis. Okako eyed the boy's relaxed posture with concern. He was in Aizawa Sensei's chair, the same teacher who had introduced himself in a yellow sleeping bag and looked at them like pests he'd have to deal with all year. The same Aizawa Sensei who had threatened to expel them if they didn't give 100% on the quirk apprehension test and had nearly caused the purple-haired boy with the brainwashing quirk to collapse. The poor kid didn't seem to know what he was getting into. She was about to say something when their homeroom teacher walked in and sighed. Wearily. To your places, in silence, he growled. They all sat down as quickly and quietly as possible. You did better than I expected. Maybe you have more potential than I thought. He walked over to his chair, and the green-haired boy looked up from his notebook, focusing his gaze on the hero. Problem child, Aizawa Sensei began, and the boy removed his headphones. You took a long time. The green-haired boy shrugged and got up from the seat without looking at the class. They need to improve their speed. It took them almost 5 minutes to get to the field and about 5 seconds to sit down after returning, he growled. The boy frowned, almost as if he didn't know they were there. Returning? Aizawa grunted and nodded at the class. Returning? The boy turned towards them, his eyes widening and his mouth dropping almost wide enough to let an airplane fly inside. After the initial shock, his eyes sparkled, and he seemed ready to cry. There are 20, he said in a flat tone that didn't match his expression. Aizawa nodded. You have good grades with ectoplasm. You must know how to count to 20, at least. The guy's gaze darted over them, counting enthusiastically as if he couldn't believe his first count. I can't believe it, the green-haired boy exclaimed. There are 20 kids after the quirk apprehension test. You even have a mini-you. Okako laughed at the obvious reference to Shinso looking like Aizawa Sensei, while the purple-haired boy simply lowered his head in embarrassment, looking as if he wanted the earth to swallow him up and eject him to the other side of the ocean. Midoriya, their homeroom teacher warned in a tired tone. Calm down. Bakugo, the rude boy who had gotten first place in the entrance exam with the explosive quirk, widened his eyes after hearing the boy's last name. Midoriya ignored Aizawa and kept jumping in place next to their teacher. I can't. You haven't expelled anyone yet this year. Wait. Okako thought, feeling her body tremble. Wasn't that just a logical ruse? Their homeroom teacher sighed wearily and gave the boy a look. The boy nodded. Hello, he exclaimed, smiling. Name's Midoriya Izuku, and I'm a student of 2A. Aizawa-sensei coughed, and it was as if Midoriya remembered something. Sorry, I take that back, he said, holding his notebook tightly. I'm a second-year student of the Hero course. Originally, I was in Class A until Eraserhead, the tired man here. He pointed to their homeroom teacher, and Okako wanted to laugh. The guy had guts. Aizawa-sensei just grunted. Expelled my classmates. So, I was left as his only student. Because of that, I have a different schedule and take classes with different departments. I will accompany you in some lessons as Aizawa-sensei's teaching assistant. Any questions? 20 hands went up. 3 of which were from Shoji, the multi-arm student. Aizawa sighed from his sleeping bag. Wait. When did he get into that thing? You can only ask 5 questions, he said and turned in Midoriya's direction. You choose, problem child. Don't make too much noise. It's my nap time. Their teacher then turned over in his yellow sleeping bag and left them with the green-haired boy. Midoriya laughed and began to direct his gaze to each of them as if he could see into their souls. Maybe that was his quirk. Deku. Bakugo growled. Deku? Did it mean Dekiru? Like you can do it? It was a nice nickname. Midoriya turned his head, focusing his eyes on Bakugo. Little Kaken, he exclaimed enthusiastically. Kaken? So they knew each other and it was like a sibling relationship? That was so cute. Although Bakugo's expression only showed annoyance. I can't believe you're in this class. Aizawa-sensei didn't give me the list of students because he said you only need to know the names of those who are in the classroom after the test. Now I have to get more notebooks because I didn't predict he would let the whole class stay. Bakugo growled. What are you doing here? Auntie never mentioned this. Midoriya blinked several times. Did my mom never mention that I was studying at UA? She did say that, bush hair. But we thought she was referring to general education. Because this is impossible. Midoriya chuckled and shook his head. Bakugo, he started in a cold tone. Can you explain to your classmates why it's impossible for me to be in the hero course? The remaining 19 pairs of eyes focused on Bakugo. Even Shinso, who had done nothing but nod off in his seat, seemed interested in the answer. Bakugo snorted. Because you're quirkless. The air became thick with tension and an awkward silence rose in the class. Until Midoriya laughed. Okako felt fear rise in her. After someone had downplayed him for something he couldn't control, he laughed. Aizawa-sensei must have seen serious potential in you because, Izuku finally spoke, if you continue with that way of thinking, you will only get yourself killed. Bakugo seemed to want to reply but finally gave up and grunted. Midoriya redirected his attention to the rest of them and sighed wearily. A lesson that Aizawa-sensei will be teaching you, one that you better learn fast. Underestimating and not attacking with everything you've got will cause you to die prematurely. Also, don't confuse self-sacrifice with recklessness. Midoriya looked hopefully at the class as if he was certain that one day, they would become great heroes. Okako wanted to be a great hero, and she would show that he was not wrong in believing that. Looking around at her classmates, she could see the determination in their faces. Even the stoic Shinso was eager to prove his worth. Midoriya's smile reappeared. Now, any questions? 20 students' hands went up. No. Did Era-sensei seriously not expel anyone? Ishikawa asked, the fins on his neck flapping open in surprise. Izuku laughed. 100% true, not fake. It almost gave me cardiac arrest when I saw 20 faces hopeful of becoming heroes. Suzuki snorted. For now, at least. I remember I was expelled in the middle of the first week for scratching my desk, she admitted as she sipped on her strawberry milkshake. It's not nice that he expelled us, but I think that helped us mature our desire to be heroes. We let go of childish and idealistic thoughts about becoming professionals and replaced them with more realistic ones. Fewer, the girl with the fluffy earrings, said while taking her own sip. Izuku nodded. It helped us grow, he replied as he put down his chocolate chip cupcake. Even though I'm still telling you. Was it really necessary for you to change teachers? Ishikawa shrugged. We were given the chance and we accepted. Suzuki said, besides, you're an honorary member of Class A. And, to be honest, a hero is personally training you. It's not like you have anything to complain about. Izuku finally gave up before nodding. You're right. I think, after so many years of ostracism, I'm grateful that I found people like you and Aizawa Sensei who see me as an equal. Fewer shook her head. Like an equal? No. She started laughing. We see you as a god. The survivor of Aizawa Sensei's Purge. She raised her soda in the air as if to toast. Izuku rolled his eyes, and when he turned to look at his other friends, he found them doing the same, agreeing with Fewer. Izuku felt the heat rise up his face. Don't say that, he exclaimed, shrinking in his seat with the desire to disappear. How was combat training with All Might? Aizawa-sensei asked Izuku from his spot inside his sleeping bag. The second-year student sighed. Your students destroyed 2 buildings. How? They were supposed to start with basic training. Class 1 as homeroom teacher growled. Izuku scratched his neck nervously. All Might is so dead. Well, All Might decided that the students would face off in hero and villain teams and fight each other, he replied, watching his teacher's commonly stoic expression transform into one of exhaustion and annoyance. And some got excited, Izuku said for lack of a better term. And they left 2 buildings unusable. Aizawa-sensei sighed. Bakugo and Todoroki, right? Izuku nodded and added, and Uraraka, who used the debris created by Bakugo and threw it at a column so that Ida would be distracted and she could get the bomb. His teacher just sighed and sank deeper into his bag. You know, review the recordings and analyze the students' quirks. I will review them later to point out what they need to improve. The quirkless student nodded before fiddling with his fingers, as if he wanted to say something but was embarrassed to do so. Just say what you want to say, the erasure hero instructed. And make it quick so I can get back to my nap before I have to go through the atrocities of All Might and those hellhounds. Izuku took a deep breath. What do you think about giving a capture scarf to one of your students? Is that the quirkless student? A reporter asked. Izuku ran off at full speed, several members of the press in hot pursuit. Some first-year students engaged enthusiastically with the reporters like Ingenium's brother, who was delivering a passionate speech about All Might's qualities as a teacher. Others, like Uraraka, got caught up and answered anything thrown their way, while the rest, like Shinso and Tokoyami, were slipping through the bushes to avoid attention. Aizawa-sensei was speaking to a reporter. Although Izuku couldn't hear what he was saying, he saw his teacher make a dismissive get-out-of-here gesture with his hand. Yamada-sensei suggested using his quirk to scatter the reporters, but Aizawa-sensei had denied the suggestion. A pity. Izuku had wanted to see the press fly away. It's just the media. Ida yelled from the air. Calm down. Izuku turned to look at his group of friends. What did I tell you? Few aside. We panicked. Don't blame us. There's no way that thing is a human being. Izuku exclaimed in fear as he used his capture bandages to subdue another of the criminals brought by the villains. It was supposed to be rescue training, Izuku thought in disgust. Effing rescue training. They had gone to USJ, the unforeseen simulation joint, not Universal Studios Japan, as the 1A students had initially thought for rescue training across various zones. Originally, All Might was supposed to accompany them, but the number 1 hero, with his overwhelming need to save everyone, had insisted on handling villains elsewhere in the city, neglecting his teaching duties. Some things never change, Izuku thought, annoyed. With any luck, All Might won't find another quirkless child who wants to be a hero just to tell them they can't be one. Less talk, problem child. Aizawa Sensei growled. We have to keep them busy until reinforcements arrive. Izuku nodded as he captured another villain, one who grew spikes all over his body with the bandage on his right arm, using him like a flail to knock around other enemies. The villain, whom the handyman had called Nomyu, knocked down his mentor and seized him by the head. Aizawa Sensei's elbow had been partially disintegrated by the quirk of the handyman, who often spoke in terms borrowed from video games, such as NPC and Player 2. Nomyu then ground his teacher's head into the floor. Erase ahead! Izuku shouted, his voice tinged with panic. He couldn't afford to let the handyman touch him or his weapons, as that would leave him defenseless, unable to protect the students of Class 1A. Last year, when he obtained his provisional license, Izuku felt like he was living in a dream from which he never wanted to awaken. He could perform hero work, he was on the path to becoming a hero. In this critical moment, doing everything within his power to safeguard the students, Izuku was embodying what it meant to be a hero. Had this been his first year, he might have charged at the villains recklessly. But after countless incidents that left him injured and caused endless frustration for his teachers, Izuku had learned to act with prudence. So, when he saw the villain covered in hands Shigaraki, as the mist villain Krogiri had called him, approaching Asui Tsuyu, Mineta Minoru, and Shinso Hitoshi, he swiftly released his capture bandages to shield the students from harm. You'll have to get over my dead body, handyman, Izuku growled, standing his ground. The villain turned his gaze toward him. You aren't just an NPC, you're a player, he retorted, while Izuku signaled for the students to retreat. Shinso nodded, guiding a stunned Asui and a trembling Mineta away from the danger zone. Yes, Izuku declared defiantly. And I prefer direct confrontations. Shigaraki sneered. You're the quirkless kid training to be a hero. Sensei found you intriguing. Izuku remained silent, absorbing every word. Any information was invaluable. I don't know who your sensei is, but you've got mine with his face on the ground. Shigaraki chuckled and crouched beside the incapacitated Aizawa sensei. Pretty cool, erase ahead. Before Izuku could retaliate, a powerful "I'm here" echoed through the USJ. Finally, Izuku thought with relief. Izuku couldn't suppress a laugh when he saw his mentor enter the teacher's lounge. You look like a mummy, Aizawa sensei. He snickered, tugging at his own bandages. Are you sure Recovery Girl cleared you to teach? Shouldn't you be resting at home? Aizawa sensei growled. I only have superficial injuries, but Chio insists that to prevent infection, I need to wear these bandages. She says another blow to my face could have weakened my quirk. Izuku nodded understandingly. But if you're in this state, how are we supposed to train? We had a one-on-one match scheduled for today. Aizawa sensei made a gesture that might have been a nod. It was hard to tell with his body swathed in bandages. Change of plans. We'll discuss what you've learned about the 1A's hellhounds. Izuku retrieved his notebook from his backpack. Well, for starters, Kaminari seems to have undiagnosed ADHD. He needs a support item to direct his electricity to a precise point instead of letting it accumulate in his brain, which triggers his way mode. Aizawa sensei nodded, acknowledging the observation. Koda needs to speak up. I know he has selective mutism, but he needs to shout for his quirk to have more range. Bakugo has to control his temper. You saw how he attacked Shinso during the combat training supervised by All Might. A low growl emanated from Aizawa sensei at the recollection. And speaking of Shinso, his quirk is fantastic for heroics, but he hasn't practiced much and isn't physically prepared, Izuku concluded. Izuku understood why. Like him, Shinso had been socially ostracized for something beyond his control. However, unlike Shinso, no one had expected anything from Izuku, while everyone feared the first-year student would turn into a villain. Izuku wasn't sure which was worse. I'll give Shinso a capture scarf if you agree to train him with it, Aizawa sensei proposed. You'll earn extra credit for teaching him, and if you get him proficient in self-defense, it'll increase to 3 credits. Izuku nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. He extended his hand for a handshake, only to remember that Aizawa-sensei's arm was in a sling. He could almost see his teacher's stoic expression beneath the bandages and burst into laughter. "Problem child," Aizawa-sensei sighed. "Let's continue with the other hellhounds." "Don't look at me like that, Midoriya-senpai," Shinso growled, dangling precariously from the gym ceiling. "This is hard." Izuku chuckled. "That's why I'm laughing," the green-haired boy explained. "When the same thing happened to me, Aizawa-sensei laughed too. I didn't understand it back then, but now? I completely get it. The blood is rushing to my brain." The purple-haired boy screeched. "Get me down from here." Izuku placed a hand on his chin, feigning deep thought. "I'll give you 5 minutes to try and free yourself. Meanwhile, I'll grab some water from the vending machine," he said as he turned and headed toward the door, deliberately ignoring Shinso's pleas. "Get me outta here!" Shinso shouted again, desperation creeping into his voice. Izuku didn't respond, aware that the boy wanted to use his quirk. Izuku wasn't prejudiced, but he certainly wasn't foolish either. "I hate this." Though Izuku wasn't looking at him, he could almost feel the intense glare of pure frustration that Shinso was directing at him. It was a small thing, but it was there. While most heroes strive to be seen as paragons of virtue, just as Izuku had idolized them for most of his life, the reality was that they were human beings. So they were allowed to feel. Feeling some resentment was normal, the key was not letting it consume you. Underground heroes didn't have the luxury of maintaining a pristine image. Their morals were often murky, and they weren't bound by the same social conventions or even laws. So they could afford certain liberties. Like leaving a 15-year-old kid hanging from a ceiling. He thought before feeling a chill down his spine. "Oh, I'm spending too much time with Aizawa-sensei. What do you have for me today, Midoriya?" Nedzu inquired, a sly smile curling on his lips, a look Izuku had come to recognize all too well. Being the personal analysis student of one of the most intelligent beings on the planet wasn't for the faint-hearted. You had to discern the good in the bad and the bad in the good. Chaos within order. Order within chaos. Yin and yang. All these paradoxes described Principal Nedzu perfectly. "Just a few suggestions for improving the sports festival," Izuku replied, holding up his notebook. Nedzu's grin widened. "You're not participating this year, correct?" Izuku shook his head. "The more I stay in the shadows, the more effective I'll be as an underground hero. I've got connections thanks to Aizawa-sensei." Nedzu extended his paw, and Izuku placed the notebook into it. The chimera delicately opened the notebook, while Izuku took a sip of his tea. After several minutes of companionable silence, Nedzu's enthusiasm was evident in his sadistically pleased smile. Izuku mirrored it with a soft smile of his own. The eyes of both geniuses' mentor and pupil met in understanding. Nedzu took a sip of his tea and finally sighed. "You never fail to impress me, Midoriya," he declared. "It's the perfect blend of challenge and enjoyment, without crossing the line into actual abuse." Izuku nodded. "So, do you approve the events I've planned for the first years?" Principal Nedzu nodded eagerly, extending his paw again. "It's a deal, Midoriya." Izuku accepted the handshake with a mischievous grin. This year's sports festival is going to be quite the spectacle. Meanwhile, across the various departments, a chill ran down the spines of the first-year students except for one pink-haired girl from the support department. She feared nothing. "I'm Dorura Kanoko, and you are watching Japan Good News. This segment is dedicated to one of the annual events that most entertain the public." "Which one am I talking about, Sinako?" "Yes, Kanoko. UA Sports Festival has been wild, or at least the first year. I may say. LOL. Don't even say it. We had a renewed festival for this new semester with new entries. Plus, we had Pro Hero present MIC as a commentator as always. That man knows how to encourage a crowd." "Of course, he does, Sinako. And he was accompanied by a student. A surprise. Because, according to the program, Pro Hero Eraserhead would be who accompanied him." "Kanoko. Eraserhead is the teacher of Class 1A, isn't he?" "Exactly, Sinako. Recently, UA has been lied to in the eye of the world. Since first-year Class A was attacked in rescue training at the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, aka USJ, alongside the pro-hero Eraserhead and 13. But, from some leaks, there was a third injured, a second-year accompanying them. You're right about that. And, although there is not much information on that, rumors indicate that the hero name of the student in question would be void. Those poor children. Don't say it. But, at least, they discovered that the world of heroes is not all glitz and glamour. It's a profession and they are going to be the pillars that will maintain this society. It's extremely curious how we can see the future mainstays in high-quality entertainment. Here we bring you a few excerpts of the most entertaining. Before the first event, we bring you the recording of the speech of the first-year student representative, Bakugo Katsuki, who entered with 89% on the written exam and 77 points on the practical. I'm going to win this, the blonde student announced before the crowd of students. You'll be great stepping stones to my success. The rest of the students weren't happy. But what confidence? Yup. Let's move on to the first event. First event, obstacle race. It seemed like this was going to be a typical event, right, Kanoko? Really, Sinako? But things took a turn, and we have everything on video. What the F is this? Riko Kanao from 1C flew off after landing by accident on the elastic floor. Seriously? Saws? Shinso Hitoshi from 1A exclaimed as he ducked under the deadly blades. He got a free haircut. Minoma! Awase Yosetsu from 1B yelled, seeing his classmate get hit by a log on the TSTCS. Minoma Nito from 1B was on the ground, and his classmate Shisaki Ibara had to carry him on her vines. Such a spirit, listeners. Present MIC's voice was heard. Half and half. Bakugo Katsuki from 1A yelled as he chased after his classmate, Todoroki Shoto, son of number 2 hero Endeavor, as they traversed the rocky peaks. Don't leave me behind. What the hell did they think when doing this? Garaki Nora from 1D shouted, trying to escape the flying ball. In the entertainment. The voice of the mysterious second-year student exclaimed over the speakers. And in challenging you all. She couldn't help the one that hit her in the stomach. My babies are perfect for these obstacles. Watch me support companies. You want Hatsune Mai on your teams. Hatsune Mai from 1H enthusiastically exclaimed as she pulled out some kind of retractable shield. Is she turning this into a commercial? Present MIC exclaimed. And in a great one. Keep it up, Hatsune. Thank you, senpai. F you Mineta. Ashido Mina from 1A cursed as she tossed Mineta Minoru from her class straight into the sticky trap. Take some of your own medicine. What's happening? Present MIC enthusiastically yelled. Bakugo Katsuki vs Todoroki Shoto come for first place. The anonymous student yelled, not knowing that someone already occupied it. What? Bakugo's scream overcame the loudspeakers. And the winner of the first round of the UA First Year Sports Festival is. Present MIC exclaimed. Unexpected and illogically, Shinso Hitoshi from 1A. The student announced. The purple-haired student simply widened his eyes and looked back to see that he had indeed won. Purple Troll BC. Bakugo crossed the finish line using his explosions. Shinso looked at the cabin and moved his mouth saying, kill me. That was interesting. True, Kanoko? Definitely. The surprise was that Shinso Hitoshi won the obstacle race due to him not having a physical quirk. But what's his quirk? We'll find out later on, but those saws took the boy's height down. Ha! Better hair than his head. Can we talk about that Minoma boy? It was a low hit. But the teamwork was lovely. And speaking of teamwork. Second event, capture the flag. I lost money on this. I had bet on a cavalry battle. It's not very ethical to gamble at the expense of a school event. It's the media. Our moral code summaries to inform. Let's go with the best moments. But, before, they formed teams from the 18 students who passed from the first round. And don't forget how Shinso Hitoshi, round 1 winner, learned about the consequences of his victory. His expression became a meme. The camera focused a scared grimace on the face of the commonly stoic student upon learning that he wouldn't compete as a team, but with a partner in Capture the Flag. Teams: Kendo Itsuka, Minoma Nito, Tsuburaba Koshi, and Shiozaki Ibara. Uraraka Okako, Rin Hiryu, Mina Ashido, and Tetsu. Todoroki Shoto, Tenya Ida, Momo Yorozu, and Kaminari Denki. Bakugo Katsuki, Hantasiro, Kirishima Ehiro, and Shoji Mizo. Shinso Hitoshi and Hatsum Mai. Appreciate my beautiful babies. Hatsum enthusiastically announced. These boots match Gravity Girl's quirk. Hey! Uraraka scolded. You can't with the supremacy of 1B. Minoma yelled as Kendo slammed his giant fist at Ashido. Kirishima snorted from the other side. Aren't you the one who was hit by a log and had to be dragged to the finish line? Shut up. Nuck. Tetsu frowned. Here. His eyes glazed over. Gimme the flag. Shinso ordered. Eye bags. Bakugo yelled, going towards Shinso. You can't flee from me. I wasn't going to do it. He replied stoically and withdrew, leaving his flag alone. Bakugo growled. Don't look down at him, obesity. Shinso smirked. Grab the flag and take off with your team until you hear Present MIC yelling it's over. Recipro burst. Tenya Ida yelled, taking Uraraka's team flag. Hey! Rin exclaimed. We just took it from Zero. Shinso! Todoroki exclaimed as he approached. I know you have a flag. Yorozu started to create a blanket from her abdomen. Your quirk is a threat. Kaminari recharged. Therefore, I must neutralize you. The ice came off his foot and froze the purple boy, who smirked. Who told you that I had the flag? Yes, support companies. Hatsum yelled through her speakers. Hatsum creates everything for every situation you could imagine. Shoji Mizo was on the ground trying to catch her. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who offend us. Just catch Kaminari, Shiozaki. It's a threat even in Wei mode. Tetsu yelled as the distracted Kaminari loomed over them. God's timing is always right. Shiozaki exclaimed, pulling her vines towards the electric boy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's over. Present MIC yelled, pulling Bakugo out of the brainwash. Too much intensity for an event. And the third round is missing, Sinako. Which we will talk about after commercials. Along with the comments of this event. Japan Good News was brought to you thanks to. Do you want hair as shiny and strengthened as All Might? Buy Mig Hair. And your hair will say I'm here. Do you want men to fall before you like with Midnight? With the Midnight Flower perfume, you will achieve that and more. Put your hands up. Live every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. on the radio. Wash recommends it. Oricurine detergent. End of ad space. And we return, little listeners. Copyright. That phrase is proprietary to Present MIC. Who cares? To the network. Sinako. LOL. Kanoko. Okay. Forget it. Everyone. Forget it. You're right, but we have to continue with the UA Sports Festival. Only the first year, because the second year will be tomorrow. After Capture the Flag, we got the 16 finalists. Kendo Itsuka, 1B. Minoma Nito, 1B. Tsuburaba Koshi, 1B. Shiozaki Ibara, 1B. Todoroki Shoto, 1A. Tenya Ida, 1A. Yorozu Momo, 1A. Shoji Mizo, 1A. Bakugo Katsuki, 1A. Zero Hanta, 1A. Kirishima Ainjiro, 1A. Kaminari Denki, 1A. Shinso Hitoshi, 1A. Hatsum Mai, 1H. Uraraka Okako, 1A. Tetsu, 1B. Why are Uraraka and Tetsu there? Their team remained with 0 flags. They needed to complete all 16, so if they eliminated Shinso and Hatsum, they would remain. Each team could hold, at most, 2 flags. If 2 teams ran out of flags, they would have gone directly to the quarterfinals. That's 8 participants. Really? I didn't hear that. It's because your attention is just on only one thing. While you were gambling, I was listening at midnight announcing the rules to show quality content and accurate information. Why don't I deserve a show of my own? I deserve one too, Kanoko. No time for discussion. We'll show you the pairings for the face-to-face matches. Round 1. Monoma Nito, 1B, vs Shinso Hitoshi, 1A. Uraraka Okako, 1A, vs Bakugo Katsuki, 1A. Shiozaki Ibara, 1B, vs Zero Hanta, 1A. Kendo Itsuka, 1B, vs Todoroki Shoto, 1A. Hatsu Mai, 1H, vs Tsuburaba Kosi, 1A. Ida Tenya, 1A, vs Yorozu Momo, 1A. Tetsu, 1B, vs Kirishima Einjiro, 1A. Kaminari Denki, 1A, vs Shoji Mizo, 1A. Some matches were interesting. Don't even say it. On this side, we have the blonde ghost thief from 1B, Monoma Nito. Present MIC exclaimed. And, on the other, to the mysterious Shinso Hitoshi from 1A. The student announced. Both students left their respective places and positioned themselves face to face on the field. Don't think you know how useless your quirk is once someone finds out how it works. Monoma exclaimed as Midnight announced the rules. Ready? The heroine asked. The blonde from Class B nodded, as the tired-looking one did. Start! Shinso sprinted across the terrain in a straight line in the direction of Monoma. Who said I'd use my quirk on this? He asked, grinning. Before the blonde could answer, a fist hit him on the nose. He was unconscious. Ouch! That must have hurt. The good news is that Shinso showed quirks aren't everything. But, what's his quirk? Something like hypnosis from what we've seen at the Capture the Flag. Shinso Hitoshi. Quirk, brainwash. You answer a question, and you fall under his control. Oh, that sounds evil. Sounds heroic. Don't be an ignorant. But it's true. As true as all might is under 30, a-hole. For all ages. Then stop fomenting discrimination, piece of S. We interrupt your regular programming due to technical problems to show you breaking news. I introduce myself, I'm Soru Hana, and I'm here with news. Regarding what happened with the pro-hero Ingenium. Unfortunately, his injuries will prevent him from continuing his career as a hero, having to retire at an early age. The family asks for respect and not to overcrowd the hospital where he's recovering. At the beginning of the UA second-year sports festival, which is still broadcast and will have a block tomorrow, there was a beautiful tribute to Ingenium's career. We will return as soon as we receive more news of his condition. We go back to the main block. I'm Darura Kanoko, my friend had to withdraw, so I'll continue the program. Well, 1A Shinso Hitoshi beat 1BS Monoma Nito unpredictably and quickly. Perfect for a hero. But some matches got juicier. Uraraka Okako was the purest definition of girl power and plus ultra when facing Bakugo Katsuki, her explosive classmate. Thank you. Uraraka said as she got up from the ground and looked at Bakugo with the purest expression of determination. Thank you for not letting your guard down. And then she linked the fingers of her 2 hands. Debris fell from the sky, similar to an asteroid shower. Sadly, Bakugo gathered up all the nitroglycerine he had produced and created an explosion that destroyed the girl's chance of reaching the quarterfinals. The crowd roared in rage, exclaiming that Bakugo had acted so brutally with his partner, noting that Uraraka had vanished to the ground and could no longer get up. Excuse me? The anonymous student's voice echoed through the stadium. Do you think Uraraka is so weak that she deserves Bakugo to be soft on her? That girl created a shower of debris. She's anything but weak. If you believe what you are saying, find another career. There's no reason to underestimate anyone based on anything. Uraraka gave her all, used all her strength. The least Bakugo can do is show her respect by fighting with everything he has. I like that boy. Uraraka didn't win her match, but she gained my admiration. Uraraka's quirk is zero gravity, which allows her to nullify the gravity of everything she touches. Her opponent, Bakugo Katsuki, sweats nitroglycerine and can explode it. It was one of the best matches, and it was only in the round of 16. Regarding the fight between Zero Hunter and Shiozaki Ibara, well, watch the video. Sheet! Zero exclaimed as Shiozaki's vines immobilized him. The green-haired girl sighed. Don't use that vocabulary. God doesn't approve. Besides, your tape is hurting me. They were both completely tied up. Shiozaki's vines were around the boy from 1A and his tape was stuck in various parts of the girl's hair. The match ended with Shiozaki yelling and dragging Zero out of bounds. They both had to stick to Recovery Girl who was waiting for them with scissors. It was a tangled situation. Ha! Do you get it? Tangled. Like the pre-Quirk movie. No? Okay, bad joke. The next match was between Todoroki Shoto, whose quirk allows him to produce ice and fire, and Kendo Itsuka, who can enlarge her hands. Wait? I don't think it's necessary. Should I really say it? Also, I have to add the fact that Todoroki Shoto is Endeavor's son. Let's see the clip. The match started with a large wall of ice was thrown by Todoroki at Kendo. The Class BS girl couldn't raise her fists and fight him off. Present MIC yelled. It ended by declaring Todoroki the winner. That was quick. Not much to comment on, except that the boy's quirk is crazy. The next match lasted 10 minutes. Show video. That's support companies. Hatsumi exclaimed as she used her retractable baton and kicked a troubled Tsuburaba out of bounds. Hatsumi. In my next match, I'll announce my other babies. Hatsumi wins. Midnight said in a blank voice. She stole our speakers. Present MIC announced. The mystery student laughed. But she did her job. Hatsumi will show items in every round she participates in. She's UA's brightest mind. Plus Ultra, Hatsumi. Commonly the hero course stands out, but Hatsumi in the representation of the support course puts her department on high. Common girl. Now we continue with Ida Tenya, Ingenium's younger brother, against the creative Yorozu Momo. Ida ran over and pulled Yorozu out as she created a shield and sword. The girl lost with a disappointed expression on her face. Well, there are different quirks with different complexities. Don't be discouraged, girl. Defeats are steps to success. Now, we have an endurance match. Students with the same quirk. Tetsu from Class B and Kirishima from Class A. This doesn't make sense. The student commented in a bored tone. But it's great. Present MIC remarked. This is going to end in a draw and they'll have a rematch. How do you know? The hero asked. Because they are both unconscious. The teacher laughed. What are you dash? He fell silent in mid-comment. What? Both are out. In order not to put you on hold, Class A's Kirishima A hero won the rematch. Both students cried as they said that their confrontation had been very manly. Do you know what it means? Oh. Crimson Riot? Interesting. Finally, we had the electric boy, Kaminari Denki, against multiple arms, Shoji Mizo. It was quick. Kaminari used all his electricity. He stayed in way mode and went out of bounds on his own. Shoji was on the ground, but conscious. Midnight declared him the winner. A rather intense round of 16, and the 8 that survived faced in the next round. Round 2. Shiozaki Ibara vs Tenya Ida. Todoroki Shoto vs Shinso Hitoshi. Shoji Mizo vs Bakugo Katsuki. Kirishima Ainjiro vs Hatsumi Mai. I'll just say that Shinso Hitoshi's face is a Duel 4 comedy. If only he smiled more. The student's expression was one of complete terror, his eyes wide and his jaw wide open. He looked around the booth and uttered a silent, "Is it late to have reported me ill? He's so lovely." Now, continuing with the matches, we have the Vines girl, a current century Rapunzel Shiozaki Ibara, versus the speedster, Tenya Ida. It ended fast. The boy used the same technique as the match against Yorozu. He didn't give the girl from Class B the opportunity to use her vines. He won. The next match pitted a mental quirk against an emitter. It's impressive that Shinso has passed the entrance exam due to the continuous complaints of various applicants. It allows physical quirks to stand out, but that boy is proof that this exam measures more than strength. Pass video. Start! Midnight exclaimed enthusiastically. Todoroki Shoto threw a wall in the direction of Shinso Hitoshi, who narrowly dodged it. Don't you get tired of the same? The purple-haired boy asked, grinning. Todoroki didn't respond and threw another wall, which did hit the mental quirk student, immobilizing him. The R-rated hero walked over to where Shinso lay frozen. Todoroki faced him. Can you move, Shinso? Midnight asked. The boy smiled. I can still move my lips, so dash. Todoroki threw a small blast of ice at the boy's mouth, shutting him up. Now! Midnight asked again. Shinso shook his head, and Todoroki was declared the winner. Shinso's participation has generated a significant impact in several communities. Those quirks are called villains or useless. Even in the quirkless one, he showed that strength is in the spirit more than in quirk. My whole life, my quirk was called useless. It only allows me to bend my toes. It's a shame that our society values people based on their quirk. I am happy to see someone challenging the system. Well, moving on to the next match, we had Bakugo Katsuki vs Shoji Mizo. Who are you betting on, kid? Present MIC's voice echoed through the speakers. You are a teacher, MIC, and a commentator, you must play neutral. The student pointed out. Present MIC laughed. Too long with eraser. Pay attention, you have to declare Bakugo the winner. The boy said as Shoji went out of bounds. Wait. What? The voice hero exclaimed when he realized that he had missed the match. We have no information about the mysterious student, but we can say that he is in the hero course and learns from Eraserhead. Maybe with that, we will find his identity, maybe not. Anyway, he's still a minor and the ethics is worth more than the news. Although some idiots forget the journalist and reporter's oath. Well, let's go to the final match of the girl from the support department, Hatsume, against the indestructible Kirishima from Heroics. Start video. It's not manly to use me as a publicity ploy. The heroic student growled as Hatsume promoted her jetpack. Apparently, my assistant wants to finish this match. The girl exclaimed. I can do that. And so it was that a large net shot out of one of the girl's support items and threw the student out of bounds. It's this, ladies and gentlemen. Support companies. You want Hatsume. What's Hatsume's quirk? I have to tell you that it has nothing to do with intelligence. That's a gift of her own. Her quirk is zoom and allows her to see up to 5 kilometers away. And there you have them, public. The semifinalists and their matches. Round 3. Hatsume vs Ida Tenya. Bakugo Katsuki vs Todoroki Shoto. What a thrill to see a student from another department join these heights of the festival against hero students. Do you want to know how it ended? We'll return after these commercials. Japan Good News was brought to you thanks to. Do you want a vibrant smile like Miss Jokes? Try Smile Punch and you will see how your teeth shine. Do you want to be a blood hero like Vlad King? Go to Donate Blood and Save Lives. 9 out of 10 beauty experts recommend it, including Nedzu himself, Keratin Shampoo. 4 shiny, soft, and fluffy hair. Konbanwa pills. So your dark circles don't resemble Shinso Hitoshi's. End of ad space. How about your weekends, guys? Izuku asked, arriving at the classroom earlier than Aizawa Sensei, who was enjoying his last few minutes of quiet. The students groaned. An extra from Support 1. Bakugo growled. Izuku laughed. Is that why Aunt Mitsuki was saying you looked like an angry Pomeranian? Bakugo hissed. Shut up, Deku. Izuku started to breathe slower and dry his eyes before looking at the other students in front of him. Any thoughts other than Hatsume's victory? Shinso raised his hand and sighed. My weekend was full of paperwork. Apparently, a brand used my likeness to promote some sleeping pills on a TV show. My parents were furious. Kaminari started to laugh at it. On Japan Good News. That reporter defended you tooth and nail from quirkism. Ashido nodded enthusiastically. I heard they are giving her a show since she was trending on Twitter. Shinso nodded. My parents were excited about that. It was like a wake-up call or something. My father joked that they must have used his likeness instead of mine. Izuku frowned. Why? My dad's quirk is not sleeping. The dark circles I have are a hereditary secondary mutation, as is insomnia, apparently. The class fell silent. Some jaws dropped to the floor. Until Todoroki impressively interrupted. Does that mean you're not Aizawa-sensei's secret love child or Midoriya-senpai's brother? Shinso made a face of pure confusion, and Izuku decided to put his own into words. What the heck, Todoroki? Internships. Shouter growled, showing the board. Those who didn't receive any will be able to choose between the agencies affiliated with UA. Uraraka raised her hand. Yes. How does Midoriya-senpai skip the sports festival? She asked, frowning. Shota growled, you should ask him that. But his very cryptid. Kirishima complained. Then learn to decipher. Shota finished before starting to get into his sleeping bag. For Hero Informatics, Midnight will help you choose your hero names dash. And hopefully they're good because if they're wrong, they'll look like Eraserhead. Nemurai cut him off as she entered. They won't be such idiots. Aizawa-sensei. Izuku called his teacher. The man looked up from the papers. What's wrong, problem child? Why is Irma's hero name can't stop twinkling? Why is Bakugo's blank? Why are Ida and Todoroki just with their names? And Ashido with Pinky? His teacher widened his eyes, showing emotion for once all day, and then his head slammed into the desk. They were such idiots. Okay. Izuku said, confused. Midoriya-senpai. Shinso stopped him in the middle of the hall. Shinso? School ended hours ago. Izuku scolded him. The boy shrugged. It doesn't matter. The point is that I found out from Fuwa-senpai that you do your internships with Aizawa-sensei. Traitor, Izuku thought. Fuwa Moata started sneezing across the town. And? He asked. The first Yed sighed. How did you do it? Izuku frowned. Did you read your internship package? Shinso shook his head. Then read section E. Midoriya-senpai. Uraraka approached him at lunch the next day. Izuku looked up from his lunch and focused on Uraraka, got up from his table, and indicated to his friends that he would be with them shortly. Did something happen, Uraraka? He asked. The girl nodded as she fiddled with her hands. I'm worried about Ida. She said quietly. He chose manual in Hosu as his internship. I feel like he will make a serious mistake. Ida. Hosu. Ida had been acting weird in class. He was going to intern in the same city where his brother was attacked by Hero Killer. His eyes widened in panic, but he tried to appear calm. He didn't need to over-alert Aizawa-sensei's student. Thanks for telling me. He finally answered. Ida. Shota called the boy with glasses. Come closer. Yes, sensei? The boy asked as he reached where his teacher indicated. Midoriya had told him about his conversation with Uraraka. While the problem child was talking with the other hellhounds, giving some advice, Shota took the opportunity to converse with the younger Ida. Don't think with your liver, but your head. He said to the boy. I can't stop you from going to Hosu, but don't you dare do something you might regret. Ida nodded. Don't worry, sensei. Go back with your classmates. Shota finally said, watching as the train approached. As he watched the Ida walk away, he thought how bad the boy was lying. I'll have to watch for him, he thought. Shinso complained as they returned to UA. Was it necessary to go to the station even though I'm going to stay with you? Shinso asked, groaning. Aizawa-sensei nodded with a sadistic smile. The experience outside of the internships is the same for everyone. It means that you had to get up ridiculously early because your classmates did. Izuku said, looking at his phone. At day, training. At night, patrol. Welcome to underground heroics. Just so you can see, Aizawa-sensei growled, or permit you to participate. You still don't have a temporary license to decide to act on your own. A question, Senpai. Shinso approached him after training. What's wrong? Izuku asked as he ate an apple. Why is your capture weapon bandages? And not a scarf? He said with a frown. I see that you know how to handle the scarf. Izuku shrugged. During training, my scarf broke in half, and I had to come up with a way to wear it. I put it on both of my arms and used them as bandages. From there, I invented a fighting style. It's easier for me to handle the bandages than the scarf itself. Aizawa Sensei took 6 years to perfect the use of the scarf. I will take the same time, but I'm teaching you the basics. Later, Aizawa Sensei will teach you the complicated. With faith, for the next semester, it will be added to your hero suit. Shinso held his capture weapon. Really? Yes. Izuku said enthusiastically. You have talent with that thing. Considering that I stumbled because it was too long, he thought. But he wasn't going to say that to the boy. Midoriya. Aizawa Sensei called him during the night. Shinso had fallen asleep the moment his face had touched the pillow. With faith, he will sleep through the night, Izuku thought amusedly. Yes, Aizawa Sensei. He said as he approached his teacher, who was going on patrol. Wednesday, go to Hosu. I'll start training Shinso with the scarf. I need you to keep an eye on Ida. His teacher growled as he sipped his coffee. The boy is about to do something stupid. I feel it in my bones. Tomorrow Shinso will have to stay awake. We are going out on patrol. I want him to meet the police department as a student hero, not as a witness to villains' attacks. Izuku frowned. Why Wednesday? Aizawa Sensei put his mug on the sink and started wrapping the capture scarf around his neck. Instinct. He would have to admit that his teacher had good instincts. Hey! He yelled as he watched as Hero Killer threatened to drive the blade of one of his katanas into Ida's body. Get on one your size. The Hero Killer stood up and could see that Izuku's height was nothing like the criminal's. My size? The man scoffed. He has no nose, Izuku thought stupidly. He's a first-year student. He needs to learn. He claimed as he prepared his bandages to attack. Hero Killer snorted. He's already corrupted. Letting resentment consume you, and letting yourself be guided by a thirst for revenge is the furthest you can get from a hero. While the man released the rest of his spiel, Izuku took out his communicator. He requested reinforcements from the heroes who were facing the Nomus. Most likely, they couldn't arrive, but at least he was trying to get them. He saw Native leaning and paralyzed against the wall. He was another person to rescue. He would have to entertain Hero Killer and, if necessary, fight. Ida growled. You disabled my brother. You destroyed his career. He was an impeccable hero. And, I inherited the name Ingenium, I have to dash. Close your mouth. Izuku hissed, not taking his gaze from the assassin. Shut up, Tenya. Ida was paralyzed. Hero Killer was turning his back to him, concentrating on Izuku. This is my business. Don't get involved. Izuku gave a humorless laugh. I'm still a student, but I'm too involved with you to say it's none of my business. I'm studying to be a hero, I want to be a hero, and although it seems illogical, being a hero is being there to help, when possible, those in need. Hero Killer began to cackle, his katanas flapping around his body. You are such a curious boy. He started as he approached Izuku and left Ida. You speak as if you are a true hero, now I wonder. Will you fight like one? He finished, preparing his katanas to attack. Izuku let the bandages slide down his arms and leaned down. You are not the one to judge, he said, putting on a daring smile. But I want to see where your opinion goes. And, they both rushed forward. What did I tell you? Aizawa Sensei growled, running his hand over his face while looking at his pupil's bandaged leg. Shinso was sitting in a chair, checking his phone. They were both wearing his suits while Izuku had been stripped, and was wearing a hospital gown. Ida was sitting in the next bed, with his head lowered and a cast wrapped around his arm. Watch over Ida. Izuku said wearily like a child who was being claimed. And what did you do? Aizawa-sensei said irritably. I faced Hero Killer and ended up with a katana on my cuff. He replied dryly. His teacher examined him. You could have died. That criminal has murdered heroes, and you are a student with a provisional license. Izuku nodded. It was the most logical course of action. Hiro's attention was on the nomus and the other civilians. We were in an alley alone. Ida and Native were priorities. I tried to distract him, I called for reinforcements, but as I said, no one was available. I had to fight, and I managed to submit him before support arrived. I don't regret any of my decisions, he said decisively, facing his mentor. Shinso was observing the situation with a gleam of surprise in his eyes. Ida kept looking embarrassed. Aizawa-sensei was with his neutral expression before sighing. You did well. His teacher agreed. Although reckless, problem child, you did well, he said before turning his attention to Ida. Instead, this would reserve expulsion from UA. The student paled. Like Izuku and Shinso. Aizawa-sensei was a strict teacher, but Izuku knew he cared about students and had a soft spot for children. He hasn't expelled the students that year. Mineta was still there, despite being a pervert, and giving Izuku cold chills. Bakugo was still there, even if the boy was wild. Kaminari and Ashido were scandalous, etc. Aizawa-sensei must seriously have liked this class not to have expelled them by now. But I think I'll be lenient, and you'll only have a red mark on your record. I think your arm and Midoriya's presence in the hospital are enough to motivate you not to do something stupid like that again. He growled. Ida nodded fiercely. Sure, Aizawa-sensei. Then turned to Izuku. Forgive me, Midoriya-senpai, for everything I did and why you got hurt. Izuku nodded calmly and gave him a reassuring smile. The important thing is that we are alive, and we will recover. Aizawa-sensei grunted. The door opened, and a dog-headed policeman next to Manuel entered. The policeman introduced himself as the head of the Hosu Police Department, Tsugarami Kenji, and then delivered a spiel directed at Ida. Shinso was noticeably out of place, and you could tell how uncomfortable he was. Most likely, Aizawa-sensei just wanted him to leave to find a corner to fall asleep until Izuku's mother arrived. Tsugarami said, You guys won't be involved. Endeavor would get the credit. Izuku snorted. The guy who almost set me on fire while I was being held hostage by Hero Killer. Sangza nodded. Or do you want to come out of underground, Void? Izuku shook his head. I got it. Let's give the credit to Indihor. What does it mean to be a hero? Izuku heard Shinso ask from his chair. Aizawa-sensei had gone out for a cup of coffee, and Ida had fallen asleep. Izuku frowned. I couldn't tell you accurately. Why? The first-year student looked at him, confused. Because it depends on why you want to be one. Why do you want to be a hero? Shinso sighed. Grudge. I know it doesn't sound very heroic, but I want to show people they are wrong about me. That my quirk is not villainous dash. Izuku snorted. Don't think I'm making fun of you. I laugh at how stupid people can be. To a certain extent, I share your point of view. People called me useless for being quirkless, and I'm longed to show them that they were wrong. He remembered the times when some of his classmates teased him, looked at him with pity, or just ignored him. The teachers didn't believe him when he got good grades or did his homework. All Might told him that he couldn't be a hero. Despite that, my motivation was always to help people. I wanted them to see me and feel safe, but that evolved, and I have grown and matured. I want to save and help people. Being the best hero that I can be. He smiled. Tell me, what do you think it means to be a hero? Shinso thought about it for a while, his brow furrowed, and his eyes scanned the floor of the room. Finally, he sighed and ran his hand over his face. I think being a hero means helping others. Izuku nodded. That's what a hero does. He said quietly. But, I tell you, your motivation is good. You understand people like us, rejected people. You want to help them. You want to make a statement, that, if I'm honest, it's a good way to be a hero. Sheet. Izuku growled as he watched the video on Fua's phone. She nodded, biting her lip. Yeah. The flying Nomu and Stain saving you. Oh. And don't forget Endeavor saving your butt afterward. Ishikawa commented. If you only knew, Izuku thought as he rolled his eyes. And the hero killer speech. Suzuki added. I know he is a criminal and he's doing wrong, but you have to accept that he has some pretty valid points. Izuku could not help but think that the man's ideology was correct in certain aspects. He has been aware of that throughout his life and has just accepted it. The system was not perfect. Endeavor was a perfect example of a false hero, and he didn't know why, but his son, Shoto, wasn't very excited about being one, even though he was studying to be one. He had talked to Aizawa Sensei about it. The man had said that he would try to talk to him during their summer camp. Izuku hoped that he would because, from what he had seen during the sports festival, if he kept only using ice, he would end up killing himself. Throughout the Hosu incident, he knew that Todoroki had gone to do an internship in Shibuya. So he had stayed away from his father. Well, a lot happened, he said, trying to calm everyone down. Sasamiya frowned. What about Ingenium's brother? Izuku smiled. He's fine, he has a few damaged nerves, but he'll be fine. The second-year students were talking about their work studies, and their attention was directed to Izuku with his casted leg. It was due to Hero Killer, and the video that was circulating on HeroTube regarding him. Have you heard from the final exams? Fua asked, noticing that Izuku wanted to change the subject. All eyes turned to Izuku. What? He asked, confused. Come on, man. Tell us what's coming. Ninasotaya pleaded. Izuku rolled his eyes. Why would I know? Because you're rubbing shoulders with the teachers and the principal. They must have blurted something out there. Suzuki exclaimed as the rest of his classmates nodded. Izuku shrugged. I know the first years will fight the teachers. The classroom fell silent before exploding. What the F? Several voices repeated at the same time. I told some first years they were against robots. Ishikawa wailed as he put his hands on his fins. Izuku laughed. Well, at least they won't know what hit them. Midoriya-senpai. Kaminari exclaimed as soon as Izuku entered the classroom, his leg wrapped in the cast and leaning on a crutch. Need help? Izuku denied. Don't worry. Rather, how did it go? The boy looked at him like he didn't believe him but finally relented and smiled. It takes longer to fry my brain. At least he progressed, he sighed. Sounds great. He told him as he put the books down on Aizawa Sensei's desk and retired to his next class. It was strange to see Kaminari alone in the classroom while the rest of the guys were most likely having lunch or something. Is something wrong? Kaminari denied. I just got low scores in the exams. I'm studying on my own, but Yorozu will do a study session at her house. I hope to pass the exams. He said with sparks jumping around him. Izuku laughed. Okay, Kaminari, but don't forget there is a practical part. The electric boy nodded. I've got it under control. It'll be against robots. Oh boy. Principal Nedzu. Izuku entered the meeting office. Izuku didn't know what he was doing there, especially when he opened the door and met the UA faculty. He gulped. Sheet. Aizawa was going to expel him? He had screwed up enormously by confronting Stain directly. He knew that. Suspension? Weren't they going to allow him to take the practical exams? Midoriya. Aizawa Sensei's voice brought him out of his mini panic attack. Stop muttering. Nothing like that will happen. Oh, Izuku thought and lowered his head in shame. His hand tightened on the crutch. Excuse me. He said. I'm a little stressed. Nedzu nodded. Don't worry, Midoriya. How long is that cast going to last? The Chimera asked, pointing at his leg. They'll take it off me in a couple of hours. Izuku replied. I'll be ready for the exams. The teachers gave each other a look that Izuku couldn't decipher until finally, Aizawa Sensei cleared his voice. Did you tell the students that they will fight us for their practical test? he asked him. Izuku denied. They think they are fighting robots. Kiyama-sensei started laughing as Mic-sensei did. The R-rated hero said, "Poor kids, I thought you liked them." Izuku shrugged. "They haven't asked me, and if they did, I wouldn't tell them. It's not my responsibility to make them study." Mic-sensei completely lost it. He's turning into a mini Aizawa. Why, Shota? When he arrived, he was an innocent green bean. Aizawa-sensei shrugged. He's always been like this. It's just that, now, you can see his true nature. Also, don't forget that he's my personal student. Nedzu said cheerfully. Cementos-sensei grunted in agreement. That says it all. Ectoplasm-sensei nodded. You guys are exaggerating. Please hurry this up. Since Hatsune came back from her internship on Island, she has even crazier ideas causing bigger explosions. I have to stop her from destroying the school. Maijima-sensei pleaded. Hey, Izuku thought, good for you, Hatsune. The point is, Aizawa-sensei said that 13 is on a rescue mission to the other side of the world and won't be able to be present for the practical exams. So, like your practical exam, you will fight against 2 students. Only if you accept. Izuku's mouth fell to the floor. He knew he was like an honorary faculty member, but he was still in his second year. It was illogical. Excuse me for asking, but why me? Why not one of the big 3? Nedzu smiled. Although the most rational thing to do would be to choose between Heido, Tagata, and Amajiki. All 3 are in their final year. Therefore their exams are mostly proof that if they are ready to graduate, while you are in second year, you're an honorary teaching assistant, you are my personal student, and you are capable enough to beat some first years. Izuku nodded as his mind thought of the possibilities, but how could I pass without the students failing? Aizawa-sensei blinked. The exams are for students to pass. You have to leave openings for them to do it. Your grade is going to be based on how you do it, not on whether students pass or not, but you don't make it easy for them. Take them to their limits. Just for Class A? He asked. Aizawa-sensei denied. You will also do it for Class B, Khan accepted. It all depends if you accept it. It sounded tempting, but would it flatter him? What would it do for me? Excuse me if I sound rude, but I would like to know everything that implies if I accept. Izuku questioned. Wow! The green bean has claws. Yamada-sensei exclaimed enthusiastically. He's asking the logical thing. Aizawa said, and his gaze focused on Izuku. Those will be your practical exam. There won't be many benefits, but you will be able to check the files of the students you are fighting against, along with the behavior records. Well, he couldn't ask for much. Or at least, can I make a request? Izuku asked. Nedzu smiled. What would it be? Izuku smiled defiantly. MIC and Midnight Sensei trembled in their seats. If I pass, we, second years, will choose the location for our training camp. He said after remembering how in their first year, they ended up, sweaty, with no signal, and full of mosquitoes in a forest. It was not going to happen again. Accepted. Principal Nedzu said with a smile. Izuku nodded, so, I accept. That's a bit outrageously brutal. Izuku said as he watched All Might throw Bakugo into the air. Uraraka looked disappointedly at her teammate as she tried to reach the exit. So she could pass the exam. Aizawa nodded. I'm going to have a hard conversation with him. I think he forgot the part about him being the teacher and not a real villain. Izuku made a pained expression when Bakugo's face hit the ground for the 5th time. That will leave a mark, he thought. The days passed, and the written exams ended. Luckily everyone in Class A had passed, even Kaminari and Ashido, and that brought them closer to the date of the camp. The second-year students also successfully passed the written tests. At that time, they were in the rescue part of their practical exam. When Izuku was up against the Class BS students, they would be developing the second half of the examination, which consisted of combat without quirks. After all, quirks weren't everything. Bakugo Katsuki and Uraraka Okuko's team passed the exam. Recovery girl announced. Aizawa Sensei sighed. 2 others who will go to the camp. Izuku frowned. But they all end up going dash. Aizawa growled. Let me enjoy my logical ruse. Shinso was not happy. What are you saying? Izuku mockingly asked. I can't hear you through your scarf. Was all he understood from the purple-haired student's complaints. Well, Todoroki must be somewhere, since he doesn't come to the exit. He couldn't finish because he visualized a gigantic wall of ice appearing to the right of him. Izuku smirked as he left Shinso dangling like he was a butterfly cocoon. He dodged Todoroki's attempt. The student's heterochromatic eyes met his viridians. It was obvious that he wasn't going to use fire. Or at least unless Izuku would do what Yamada Sensei called Midoriya-style inspiration. You know. He started as he began to slide down the ice created by the first year. Using just half of your strength, you won't accomplish much. Todoroki growled. I will pass this and be a hero without using my old man's power. He said as he threw another glacier at Izuku. Izuku snorted as he pulled it out and attacked Todoroki with his capture bandages. Obviously, you wouldn't use your father's power. It would be cheating. He exclaimed as he wrapped one of the bandages around Todoroki's right arm and began to use him as a hammer throw until Todoroki created a wall of ice that stopped him. Midoriya-senpai, I will use only my mother's side to be a hero. He replied, throwing a glacier. Izuku was getting bored of the same. It's your quirk. It's half cold, half hot. You control your quirk, not your parents. I'm sure it's your power. He could see out of the corner of his eye as Shinso continued to flail from inside the cocoon formed by his own capture scarf. The strategy of the 2 boys had been for Shinso to try to escape while Todoroki attacked Izuku. The point was that, while Todoroki was looking for him to confirm to pass the exam, Izuku was already waiting for Shinso on the rooftops, leaving the heterochromatic student as the only hope. Most likely, Shinso will fail, he thought, a shame. Todoroki did not reply and threw another glacier in Izuku's direction, which he easily dodged. He watched the frost creep up the boy's arm. It's disrespectful to me that you hold back, and it's harmful to you. He said while he held up a power pole with one end of the capture bandage on it, and kicked Todoroki in the stomach, causing him to fall. Will your team fail because of you? Shinso trusted you to entertain me. He stated as he dodged Todoroki's ice. This is how you're going to get someone killed. He yelled. He knew it was wrong to yell something like that at someone. Sadly, it was a reality that Todoroki had to use fire. Aizawa Sensei had seen potential in him. Izuku was supposed to be a teaching assistant. Despite not receiving a salary, it supported him with extra credits and a job secured by Nedzu once he graduated. But, just when he joked with 2A, calling Dezawa, to Aizawa Sensei and saying he had adopted his class. Izuku was the honorary big brother of those guys, according to his classmates. Aizawa Sensei had told him that Izuku's grade didn't depend on the first-year students failing or passing but on other aspects. So, he hoped that making Todoroki use his fire and let him pass would be for the best. In case he deserved it. The weight of what he had yelled seemed to have struck Todoroki as the boy dodged the blows. Don't let your grudge drive your actions and free yourself from his control. Use all your power. He screamed, preparing to give the student a final blow. It's your power. Isn't it? And then it happened that a wall of fire rose, and Izuku saw Todoroki smile for the first time. It's going to hurt, he thought. Child. Aizawa Sensei asked stoically. Sensei? Izuku replied. You passed the first part of your practical test. He told him calmly. You got Todoroki to use his fire, and you let Shinso keep you entertained for a few seconds. You told me to let an opening, and I did, he replied with a shrug. Aizawa Sensei nodded, they both passed. Izuku sighed, I thought Shinso had failed. His mentor denied, he did his part of the plan and kept you entertained. He passed with the slightest bit. Well, something is something, Izuku thought. This is cruelty. He said as he watched Kaminari and Ashido escaping from Principal Nedzu. Ojiro and Ayama had just finished their practical exam and looked exhausted. Ojiro sighed. And you couldn't see what Gyro and Koda did to MIC Sensei, Senpai. Izuku vaguely remembered seeing the English teacher, shakily heading to the infirmary as he returned to the observation room. I'll find out later, he said, shrugging. Uraraka trembled. Make sure you have a bag aside. You will need it. A few days later, while Izuku was observing the exams for his analysis homework, he understood what Uraraka had meant. Young Midoriya, I'd like to make a proposal to you. All Might told him when the Class A exams were over. Izuku stopped and turned to see the symbol of peace. Class B exams will be in the next PRD. I need to rest. It's the second part of mine. Number 1 hero shook his head. His iconic smile that had once given Izuku hope was making him uncomfortable. It was looking at him as a predator, ready to steal his dream. A dream for which he was fighting and working. An unrealistic dream. A dream coming true. Please. The man pleaded. It will only be a few minutes. Izuku gave up. There was no point in refusing. If the man was going to be so insistent, he would wait another day to talk to him. Fine. He agreed. Make it quick. Let's see if I got it. Izuku said before taking a deep breath. There were 2 brothers, a good one, who seemingly was quirkless, and the evil one, whose quirk allows him to steal other people's quirks and transfer them to others. He started and looked at the number 1 hero to see if he had said well so far. The man nodded and Izuku continued. So the bad guy gave the good guy, who already had a transference quirk, a stockpiling quirk. These 2 merged and kaboom. One for all, the one you want to pass me. Exactly, young Midoriya. He exclaimed, smiling. I think you would be a great wielder. You would be a great hero if you had one for all. Idiot, Izuku thought. I'm being a hero. He corrected. I'm licensed and all. I don't need a quirk. The hero's smile tightened. I don't mean you can't be a hero without a quirk. I mean, you would be a better hero if you had one for all by your side. Izuku denied. Don't you have another candidate there? All Might frowned but nodded. Young Tagata from 3rd year, but I think you would need it more. Mirio. Tagata. Izuku knew him. The boy was a younger and better version of All Might, with a complex quirk that he mastered perfectly. He didn't need anything else to be a great hero. All Might was offering his quirk to Izuku because he was quirkless. I don't need your quirk. I don't want to be your successor either. He finally blurted out. I feel flattered to have been considered, but I'm going to decline your offer and, if you allow me, I will go to rest to take the second part of my exam. Young Midoriya. All Might exclaimed before Izuku could get up from the couch. I ask you to reconsider this. He begged. This is a great opportunity for your career. You can be the hero you always wanted to be. Izuku frowned. What kind of hero would that be? One who saves people with a smile, like me. All Might replied. He remembers me. He remembers me, and he doesn't dare to apologize for what he said. Fue began to erupt in his chest. He remembers me. He sees me here, and he dares to suppose that I need his quirk to be a hero. H's hands were in clenched fists. He remembers me and believes that I'm still that little boy he left on the roof. Izuku wanted to yell at him, but he didn't. He wanted to cry, but he didn't. He growled. That was when I was 14 years old. He started. If you had told me then, I would have said yes without hesitation. The man's smile spread. I'm not that child anymore. So my answer is no. He said and watched All Might smile fade. I'll be a quirkless hero. He declared before standing up and heading to the door, his hand reaching for the door handle. Young Midoriya. All Might exclaimed. Izuku turned to see him, his hand on the handle. Are you sure of your decision? You could be the hero you always wanted. Izuku denied. My dreams have changed, All Might. He sighed as he opened the door. I'm happy with them. I repeat, thanks for the offer, but I don't want your quirk. He finally said before closing the door behind him, not giving the hero time to answer. Izuku looked at the confused students from Class B. "I mean, a green-haired girl," Setsuna Tokage guessed, started. "Not robots." Nedzu denied. "Teachers and hero in training." The blonde, who commonly annoyed Class A, snorted. "Hero in training? We are heroes in training. Do you think we are weak? Class A faced a professional hero." Nedzu shook his head. He also faced Class A's students. His replacing 13. The Chimera said and turned to Izuku. "Will you introduce yourself?" Izuku frowned because he hadn't had to do it with Class A until he remembered that he was unfamiliar with Class B, and they didn't know him. So, he nodded. "You can call me Void." He began, "I'm studying to be an underground hero." He finished. The students blinked in confusion. But, what did they expect? More details? Izuku was studying to be an underground hero. The more information he kept secret, the better. He was not in the mood, thanks to the talk with All Might. The redhead, Kendo Itsuka, raised her hand. "Yes?" Izuku asked. "Excuse me, but what's your quirk?" She asked in a low voice. "We know those of the teachers, but not yours. That gives us a disadvantage. Many times, the enemy is going to overtake you. You will always have to find a way out. So you will manage it," he said, keeping his voice as neutral as possible. He heard an Eraserhead in green version come from the crowd of students. "Besides," Nedzu exclaimed, "all the pros wear armbands that increase their weight. Except for Void. He makes up for those armbands with his inexperience." Izuku blinked under his glasses. "Thanks, Principal." The Chimera smiled but didn't respond. He turned to look at the students. "Now, we will tell you who to work with and who to fight. Where are you, Minoma?" Izuku said playfully. "I have your partner trapped here. If I'm honest, I don't see him very happy." "What the F are these things made of?" Kaibara demanded, fidgeting. Izuku shrugged. "From carbon fibers and a special metal alloy." The boy from Class B frowned. "Then how the F do I get out of here?" he yelled, shaking. "Minoma! Where the F are you?" Izuku laughed. "It's not impossible," he said. "It's just very hard, besides. Considering that you are so close. But so far from the exit." It had been 5 minutes into the fight. The last thing Izuku had seen from Minoma was the boy entering the buildings and then disappearing. Izuku knew the potential of the Minoma's quirk and had been enthusiastic about fighting him. There were many possibilities in which the blonde could beat him. He must have been distracted because, at that moment, he felt a hit and turned to meet a grinning Minoma. "I'll be able to beat you with your own quirk," the blonde declared. His joy lasted a few seconds until his smile faded, and Izuku could see the look of utter confusion on the boy's face. Izuku couldn't help it. He laughed. "Are you looking for a quirk?" he asked, and the boy nodded with wide eyes in surprise. "Breaking news!" Izuku yelled, preparing his capture bandages. "I'm quirkless!" he exclaimed and jumped in the direction of Minoma. Team Kaibara and Minoma failed. "Are you recording, Aizawa Sensei?" Kirishima asked sleepily. In the background, the teacher's tired voice spoke, combined with the wind and the birds. "The problem child asked me to record you and send it to him. He wanted to see how you were at your first summer camp." "Oh!" Hagakure exclaimed. "Midoriya-senpai is so sweet." "Hi, Midoriya-senpai!" Mina yelled. The camera focused on Shinso yawning and sticking out his middle finger while Bakugo grunted. Ida was dictating instructions on the order when getting off the bus. There he could see other students walking around like zombies. "We don't know where we're going," Kaminari exclaimed enthusiastically. "And I forgot my ADHD medicine." Gyro groaned. "Now we have to put up with you like this all over camp." "Hey!" Kaminari reproached. "I'm still charming, aren't I, Shinso?" The purple-haired boy grumbled. "I need coffee. It's too early to deal with you." The camera moved to show Emma talking to Uraraka about something. Izuku was betting it was regarding her crush on Ida because the gravity girl was red as a tomato. Beside him, Suzuki sighed as she began to, literally, inflate like a balloon. "Ah, how cute." Ishikawa snorted. "It looks like the apple of that pre-Quirk Disney movie. The one where a 14-year-old girl goes to live with adults in a cabin in the woods. As her stepmother, who's dressed as an old woman with scabies, went after her. The girl dies but revives thanks to a prince with a corpse's FTSH." Fewer blinked in confusion. "What a nice way to describe Snow White." Ishikawa snorted. "It's what it is. That story is disturbing." The camera focused on Shinso dozing on Todoroki's left shoulder, like a cat seeking warmth. Ninasotaya narrowed his eyes. "Is he the purple boy who the handyman attacked at the mall?" Izuku nodded. "That's why they changed the location of the camp, and only Aizawa knows about it." "Not even you?" Sisimiya asked. "Aren't you like an honorary member of the UA faculty?" Izuku denied. "You said it. Honorary, not official." The camera moved away from the students and focused on the wild pussycats talking to the students. Strangely, Shinso was more awake than a few minutes ago. "Oi!" Aizawa claimed. "Get together for a photo." They heard a growl. "And no, Shinso, it's not optional. Just join the rest. I don't give a DMN if you cover your face." The camera focused on several students posing. Shinso was hiding behind Soto. Or like Bakugo, grunting. "Aizawa-sensei, you're recording." Shiro pointed out. "I know." Aizawa's stoic voice rang out. Mandalay pointed to the view. "All this land is ours. It's perfect for a photo. Then, you'll stay at the foot of the mountain." "How far?" Class A groaned. Then Shinso's eyes widened in panic, and, for the first time in a place other than training, he yelled. "Get on the bus, everyone. Let's go back." The rest of Class A realized what awaited them and started running towards the bus. "Run!" Kirishima yelled. "Hurry!" Kaminari seconded him. "To the bus!" Uraraka exclaimed. "Sorry, children." Aizawa's voice said in the same tired and stoic way as always. Mandalay exclaimed. "We'll be waiting for you at 12:30. If you don't show up on time, you don't have lunch." "Camp!" Aizawa-sensei started, and the camera showed the desperate students trying to get to the bus as Pixie Bob touched the ground that already started. And then it happened that the earth rose. The first years screamed as they dragged off the cliff. The video ended, and the entire Class A of the second year began to laugh uproariously. "Their faces!" Ishikawa yelled as he fell to the ground, his fins moving along with his laugh. Fewer snorted. "Eraser really likes this class. He apologized to them." Hinata nodded. "He left us in the middle of the road, and the bus just took off. Crows attacked us." Suzuki sighed. "Ah. Our first year. Being expelled. Being re-enrolled. Changing homeroom teacher. It was crazy." Sisimiya exclaimed. "But no more than the insomniac's face." Ninasotaya nodded. Japan Good News was right when they said his face is perfect for memes. "Repeat it. Again. Again." Suzuki said between jumps. She no longer looked like a balloon. "I think we already made fun of naive first years a lot." Fewer said. "Let's eat." Class B ordered pizza for everyone. Izuku threw himself under the air conditioning. "I'm dying." Snipe Sensei snorted. "I thought you improved those reflexes with Aizawa." Izuku gave him the classic Aizawa Sensei erasure look. "I've never tried to dodge bullets, only knives." "Well, that's why you're here. Plus ultra." His teacher exclaimed. Izuku groaned, hitting his face with the ground. "Plus ultra. Ua. Midoriya." Ukawara from Class B greeted. "Thank you for getting this place." Izuku nodded with a smile. "You're welcome. I almost got burned alive, but it was worth it." The girl laughed. "Completely. This place is amazing. No more mosquitoes." Suzuki joined the conversation. And air conditioning. Air conditioning. Sisimiya repeated while he was drinking water. And a lake for me to practice my new super move. Ishikawa yelled as he pirouetted out of the water like a dolphin. Izuku smiled after seeing his friends and schoolmates enjoying the camp. He was glad to be the reason for that happiness. So many years in ostracism and rejection by people, just for his quirklessness, made him much more grateful for the relationships he had formed at UA. There were still people who spoke shit of him. A few from general education. Others from Class B. There had been some from the original Class A who had not been re-enrolled. Izuku must have been distracted because before he noticed, Ninasotaya was throwing him into the water. Fewer snorted. Aizawa would be completely disappointed. They light the campfire, and Class A was around it. Who tells the first story of the night? Hinata exclaimed and feigning a dark voice. Suzuki raised her hand and started hopping. Me! Me! Pick me! Hinata snorted. I choose Suzuki because a spirit guides me to her. He said, making strange gestures with his hands. Suzuki took a flashlight from inside her bag and turned it on. Her face lit up, and she smiled for a second before turning it off. It was a bad decision. My eyes. She complained and started rubbing her eyes before huffing. I'm gonna count a story called, she started. Aizawa Sensei's Purge. Get about it. Izuku yelled. Fewer slapped him at the laughs. Don't interrupt. It's my favorite. Go on, Suzuki. Ishikawa exclaimed. Ignore Midoriya. The blue-haired girl smiled and started. It was the first day of classes for a group of UA's first years. Class 1A. The excitement was in the air. The students were talking and getting to know each other. Everything was happiness. They were waiting for their teacher to take them to the welcome assembly, but then she stopped and began to wiggle her fingers. A bright yellow caterpillar appeared under the door frame of the classroom. Ooh! What a horror! Sisimiya exclaimed sarcastically. It was an Eraserhead. Izuku covered his face with his hands in shame at the mention of his mentor. Aizawa-sensei knew that most of the second-year Class A students held a grudge against him for having expelled them. It was no secret that they made jokes about him. He had even told Izuku not to dissuade them because they had every right to be upset with him. Also, those were mostly innocent things. The caterpillar introduced himself as Aizawa Shota and told the students that they were going to do a quirk apprehension test. That they would not go to the assembly and that the last one would be expelled. Suzuki continued while pretending to tremble. Then everyone went. And there were some quirkist idiots out there, so the man mercilessly expelled them without even taking the test. They lasted in UA less than an hour. They deserved it, Ishikawa agreed. They asked me why I wasn't in a fish tank. And they were idiots to mock Midoriya, Ninasotaya claimed. They lacked brains, so I still respect Aizawa, despite what happened next. Suzuki nodded as her voice turned dark again. So, the students did their tests, and the man expelled 10 students after that. I was one of those. Hinata wailed. I just didn't believe him. I survived until the next day. Fewer exclaimed. But it was terrible for me in combat training. And by the end of the week, only one was left standing. Suzuki announced dramatically and walked in Izuku's direction as she turned on the flashlight and shined it on him. Here it's the one who survived Aizawa-sensei's purge. Sisimiya didn't get to snap his fingers for the third time because Izuku bound his arms with his capture bandages. Let me win one. The brown-haired boy groaned. Izuku denied. That's reserved for first years. Fewer snorted and whispered to Suzuki. And he says he's not Eraserhead's class big brother. Izuku knew that he was Class A's first-year big brother, to some extent. But he wouldn't give them the pleasure of hearing him admit it. Snipe-sensei left as hastily as he had entered. They all looked at each other confused. Sheet. Ninasotaya cursed as he saw something on his phone. This is bad. All eyes fell on him. What happened? Why did Snipe-sensei get like that? Fewer questioned, approaching Ninasotaya. Once she was close to him, Her eyes widened in panic, and she looked at Izuku. "What's going on?" Suzuki yelled, trembling. "Tell us. I'm scared." Ishikawa walked over and began to circle the blue-haired girl's back. "Midoriya." Fua started. Her voice was shaking. Izuku's mouth felt dry. He didn't want to know, but he needed it. "What happened?" he said in a strained voice, trying not to panic prematurely. "Villains attacked the first-year camp." Ninasotaya spoke instead of Fua with a blank voice, looking at Izuku with pity. "They took Bakugo and Shinso." And then Izuku vomited. "Did you think I wouldn't notice?" Izuku called out. In front of him, there was a group of students going on an excursion, trying to retrieve Bakugo and Shinso from the clutches of the League of Villains. Kirishima looked in the direction of Todoroki, who remained stoic. Ida, who was stiffer than usual. And, finally, to Yaoyorozu, who sighed. "We have their location." Yaoyorozu said. "We're not going to fight the villains." Kirishima exclaimed, "We're going to extract Bakugo and Shinso, and, after that, we're back." Izuku shook his head. "Heroes are going to rescue them." It wasn't announced at the press conference, so the villains wouldn't know. "It's still dangerous," Todoroki reported. "The villains could assassinate Bakugo and Shinso as soon as they realize they're after them." Is this the same boy who believed that Shinso was Aizawa Sensei's secret love child? Izuku thought as he blinked slowly. He finally sighed. "I know it's difficult," he said, "but professionals know what they are doing. We're just students. We couldn't." "Midoriya-senpai. Weren't you rejected from the raid?" An extremely animated voice sounded out of nowhere. "Hagekyu!" Yaoyorozu yelled. "How? You were unconscious." "Did you see me unconscious?" the invisible girl asked. Izuku wondered if there would be a smile or not on her face. "We saw you in the hospital bed," Kirishima pointed out, shaking. "You were wearing the gown and everything." The invisible girl snorted. "Did you see that it was me? How did you know it wasn't a pillow taking the place of the clothes?" Now that he thought about it. "Your clothes?" Izuku screeched, covering his eyes. Then, he remembered that Hagekyo was invisible. He was unable to see anything. "You guys need stealth, and I'm mildly good at it," she bragged. "No," Izuku said stoically. "Just like no one should be here." The first years lowered their heads, but then Kirishima raised it. "Wait!" he exclaimed, and his gaze went to where Hagekyu was supposed to be. "What did you say at the beginning?" "Sheet," Izuku thought. "That they rejected Midoriya-senpai's participation in the raid." She said. Kirishima observed him. "Why don't you let us go? If you wanted to go, why didn't you?" "I already said it. We are still students." Izuku interrupted. "I'm close to the two of them. I may get carried away by emotions and screw it all up, just like Aizawa should sit down to do the press conference and try to dissuade from villains." Todoroki growled and approached Izuku. "Really? You? You who meddle in someone else's business come to us with that you can't go speech? It's the right thing to do. They kidnapped them because I wasn't strong enough." "Wow!" Izuku thought. Using his left side has ignited his inner fire. "I wasn't fast enough," Ida said. "I wasn't quick enough to think of a solution," Yaoyorozu exclaimed. "I wasn't manly enough," Kirishima yelled with a raised fist. "I was unconscious, but I'm usually like a background character that people forget. Therefore, I want to participate in this and do something heroic," Hagekyu quickly exclaimed. Izuku blinked in confusion. Well, he had to call Aizawa Sensei to bring these guys back to reason, but would he stop them? No. Izuku also had been a first-year student, driven by a great desire to help others without caring about his own life. "No matter what I do, I can't stop you guys from going," Izuku said as he sighed. "So, I'm going to stop you from being killed. You're next," All Might said to the camera, and the crowd erupted in screams. Everyone thinks he's talking to villains, Izuku thought. They don't know he's talking to his successor. All Might versus All for one battle had been brutal. The first-year students, along with Izuku, had successfully achieved, without confrontations, the extraction of Bakugo and Shinso. Amid the crowd cheers and the students' expressions of relief, Izuku felt his phone vibrate, and terror washed over him. Aizawa Sensei. Oh no, he thought. Give me one good reason not to expel those students or you. Aizawa Sensei growled. Izuku lowered his head. You have every reason to do it, he said, but you don't want to do it. You know I made the most logical decision. His teacher narrowed his eyes and looked at him. What would that be? Accompany them instead of saying no and leaving them alone. Izuku replied, keeping his gaze against the man's. Hell. Izuku thought. I'm in a staring contest with Aizawa Sensei, the man whose quirk requires him to look at his opponents. I'm so fried. Why would it be the most rational? His mentor questioned him. Because you know perfectly well that they would have gone anyway. At least, I was there to keep an eye on them. He exclaimed. In his first year at UA, he had participated in several missions in which he had been involved. His mentor hated them, but he never gave up on him. He was always there to watch over him. Aizawa Sensei didn't reply but ran his hand across his face before sitting down on the chair across from Izuku's and groaned. You acted stupidly. A lot of things could go wrong. His teacher began. But it's useless to think about the what if when even the other heroes determined that you won't be judged by vigilantism. Izuku opened his mouth to contradict him because the Greenette could not exercise vigilantism thanks to his quirkless state. Just like Hagekyo, because her quirk was a mutation. Under UA regulations, this would merit an expulsion. He continued, not letting Izuku interrupt him. Consider that dash. Just expelled me then. He cut off his mentor. But they're still in their first year. They deserve a chance. Well, this is the end of the one who survived Aizawa Sensei's purge, he internally joked. All his effort to get accepted into UA heroics, despite being quirkless, his dream of being a hero without a quirk, all thrown away. But he didn't regret it because it had been the right thing to do. But I won't. He continued sharply, not caring what Izuku had said. Nedzu also supports me in that decision and most of the board because the press has not found out. It doesn't affect the institutional image of the school. Also, you didn't get involved in a fight against the villains. Izuku felt relief creep up his chest. Aizawa Sensei must have noticed because he shook his head. You've lost my confidence. You know it, right? Izuku nodded dejectedly. How not? His mentor had allowed him to be his teaching assistant. He let him participate in the heroic lessons of his 20 students, interacting with them, and even take care of those kids when he couldn't. He understood perfectly. All of you will have detention. He said. I would tell you to take a normal class schedule for a while. But I want you to show me that you will regain my confidence. His mentor finished and left the room, leaving Izuku thoughtful with tears without getting out of his eyes. Izuku sobbed and said in a low voice, I'll do my best. His mother received him crying. Why are you doing this to me, Izuku? She squealed as thick tears fell from her eyes. Maybe my quirk is crying like a waterfall, Izuku thought as he let the tears flow in heaps too. He clung to the sturdy little body of his mother in a hug that provided a warm, homely feeling, reminded him of when he was a child, and he used to get hit by the other kids. His mother was always there to receive him. They knew that no matter what they did, the schools would never do anything to prevent the other kids from being cruel to Izuku. Instead, his mother could only do one thing: pick up the pieces of her son and unite them with love, as if Izuku were Kintsugi. Excuse me, Mom. He sobbed, running a hand through the woman's hair. I didn't mean to worry you like that, I just wanted to help. She interrupted him, saying what Izuku planned to tell. Mom . She let go of the embrace and put a hand on her son's freckled cheek. The delicate touch calmed him. You always want to help, Izuku, but try not to do it at the cost of your life, not again. His mother sobbed, holding Izuku's hands. They were full of scars, marks that he had earned from when he was attacked by a villain in his work study. Izuku had used his capture bandages with excessive force, and she gave them soft and delicate kisses. "Please, baby, I'm letting you be a hero, even though you worry me every time, and I feel like my heart won't be able to support this much. Please promise me you'll stay alive." Izuku couldn't promise that he would do it. Heroes weren't allowed to make promises. "I'll do my best," he replied, giving his mother another hug as he stroked circular shapes on her back. "I'll try to come back home every time." His mother sobbed into her son's chest. Izuku could see how she tried to focus on his heartbeat, as if that rhythm determined that Izuku meant it as a promise or just a way to calm her down. She sighed. "Try to come back," she told him. "Even if you are broken, try to come back. I'll always be here to pick up your pieces." All Might was being brutally beaten. His flesh shattered. Completely open morbid wounds. Purple limbs purple. Spitting blood. Like a horror film. A confrontation that had taken too long to happen. Two deadly enemies. There was no place for All Might to lose. Not if they wanted to have a future. It had been that way for several minutes. Until United States of Smash was screamed. A blinding light swept through the full view of the camera. On an unconscious body, with his fist raised, All Might declares his victory in Kamino Ward. Kamino's incident has revealed a great truth to the world. All Might, the symbol of peace, our pillar, has been fighting too long, despite his wounds. "You are all right, Yucca. That battle was brutal. And the villain, All for One, is finally in Tartarus. He will rot there." All Might is at Kamino General Hospital receiving treatment but not expected to return to his heroic career. It's the best. It's the moment for other heroes to protect US from the villains. All Might can rest. But the retreat of All Might, what does it mean for society? Thanks for asking, Koto. That's why our friend, Soru Hana, is along with Misako Kanao and Yuiko Oki, experts in quirked society theory and heroism sociology. Thanks for the pass. I'm here with our guests. Please, introduce yourselves to our audience. Good morning, everyone, my name's Miyazako Kanao. Hey! It's a pleasure to be here. I am Yuiko Oki. Thank you for accepting to be in our show. Kamino's incident has been shocking. It seems that the villains are more active day by day, don't you think? When the hero profession emerged. Originally was vigilantism. Then, the government decided to regulate it, and now it's one of the most in-demand careers in the world. Although heroes provoke a sense of security in the population, they also generate villains. Could you explain? Heroes are supposed to protect people. How can they generate villains? Nothing is black or white. We are in a society where we can only do the best we can. We will never be satisfied. Heroes give us an overly idealistic society vision. They always win, or at least, it has been a long time since we have had a great tragedy that heroes haven't been able to stop. Makes you wonder, what will happen the day the heroes fail? The day they show they are humans too? Or at least in which people realize that they are not invincible. Society gives priority to quirks. It discriminates because a hero represents what's good, right, and fair. Most heroes have flashy, strong, and glamorous quirks. They smile at the public and motivate the masses. What about those who are not like that? Underground heroes, for example, work in society's darkest parts and enormously contribute to it while stepping away from any spotlight. Does that make them weaker? Or their grey morality? It's much more realistic. Does that mean they are bad people? I think they are heroes for a reason, right? Heroes are humans as we are. Victims of the idealization of the system. As well as those who are quirkless or have villainous or weak quirks. Do you mean that you consider that the villains are victims of society? Some yes, others no. Anyways, society is a fundamental factor. Villains increase with heroes. They are two sides of the same coin. Such as the quote, "You die as a hero or you live long enough to become a villain." The line between both is thin. For example, we have vigilantes. They aren't villains, but they are unregistered heroes. Besides, they are on the wrong side of the law. They help people. Are they our enemies? Really? I understand that both heroes and villains will always be connected. But why? What would motivate someone to become a villain? What would motivate a hero to become one? We already mentioned it, but it's the idealization. If you don't get the standards, people reject you. Have you read Meta Liberation War? No, I haven't. What's IT about? If you give freedom to a limited number of people, then the negative consequences will go to others. That's the greatest desire of the human being is to be happy. When you are not completely free, how can you be happy? Quirks are part of us, but we cannot use them freely because chaos could be generated. Only certain people are empowered to use them. It's not that we say that all of them are adequate. It provokes more harm than good, sometimes. At the same time, we've become very dependent. Quirkless are always despised, but what will happen the day when we can't control our quirks? There is a rather old theory called Quirk Singularity Doomsday by Kyudai Garaki. It ended with the man's career after its rejection. We must admit that he was right in assuming that the quirks get stronger through generations. There will come a day when we won't be able to use our quirks. Society will collapse. The system would have to be reformed since it doesn't include quirkless people, only quirked. Do you realize what the Meta Liberation proposes? Before it's too late, we should be able to enjoy our quirks, use them freely. This is how you realize that villains are people who, many times, have been neglected, abandoned, and rejected. They want to get rid of the system that labels us. With the symbol of peace apart, the other heroes will have to work harder. I understand that All Might has left a great void in our society and hearts. Believes and trusts in the new generations of heroes. He told to every villain, "You're the next to not generate more damage." Haven't you noticed how active the villains have been this year? UA, the best heroic school, was attacked in April. Then the hero killer. Hosu no Mu's incident. The attack. On the heroics training camp. League of Villains rise. All for One's rise. Many things have happened and will happen. At this rate, it seems that the villains have given us a PRD of false peace. Without All Might, the people's faith is strong, but it's on a tightrope. I think we could be on the doorstep of something bigger. Like what? The rise of the villains. He was in Aizawa Sensei's office, presenting an analysis of the students from Class 1A so they could prepare super moves for their provisional license test. Since the day of the Kamino incident, the situation has been tense. Ishikawa had almost had a cardiac arrest when Izuku told them about the threat of expulsion. But the Greenette reassured them by telling his classmates that it was not going to happen and, for the moment, he would just have to regain the man's trust. Still, he noticed that his mentor was distracted. "You saw the interview with the sociologists, right?" he asked. Aizawa Sensei grunted and nodded. "There's an investigation into everything they mentioned on TV. We don't have enough clues yet, but we hope to have them soon." Izuku nodded. "This year's very hectic. That interview has only shaken everything. The commission censored the show. They have suspended it, trying to erase any trace of that interview. The other channels are forbidden to mention it. In addition, sociologists have not declared anything since that day. It's as if they had disappeared. Do you think we are facing something big?" he asked. His mentor sighed. "I'm sincere, I don't know, Midoriya, but we can't stop. We have to strengthen ourselves, be able to trust each other." "I hope I get it," Izuku admitted with a slight smile. "Can we talk to you, Midoriya-senpai?" Kirishima called out to him as Izuku made his way to the Class 2A dorms. Izuku turned. "Does it need to be right now?" The redhead student nodded. "Please, we haven't seen you much recently, and we want to talk to you." Izuku sighed. "Okay, but be quick. I have analysis to finish." Izuku followed Kirishima to the entrance of 1A's dorms and met Shinso, Yorozu, Hagakure, Ida, Todoroki, even little Kaken was there. "What's up, guys?" he asked. Ida stepped forward and bowed in a perfect 90 degrees. "Sorry to get you in trouble with Aizawa Sensei." Yorozu nodded as she placed a packet of tea in his hands. Izuku saw the tag faintly, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "This packet costs the same as the rent of the apartment." He thought. Take this as an apology gift. Yoirozu said. You knew we wouldn't stop, and that's why you went for us, took care of us, and got in trouble for that. We're so sorry. Hagakure exclaimed. We miss you in our lessons. Will you return? Todoroki asked. Izuku shook his head and gave them a reassuring smile. Don't worry, I'm going back. He said. It's just that, now, I'm pretty busy with Principal Nedzu's lessons. Also, you guys will have to prepare for your provisional license test. He said, looking at the guys from the first-year Sai in relief. Still, we're so sorry. Kirishima exclaimed. It wasn't manly from my part to try to emotionally blackmail you. I hope you'll forgive us. He lowered his head. Izuku approached him and squeezed his shoulder with his right hand. There is nothing to forgive, he said, and saw how the redhead looked up. He smiled quietly and turned to see the others. You will be good heroes. Thank you, nerd, for keeping those idiots from dying. Kaken growled. Don't worry Auntie as that again, or I'll get the sheet out of you. He finished and left the place with his hands in the pockets of his sweatpants while grumbling. Izuku blinked in confusion. That was interesting. After a few minutes, almost all of the students he had encountered had retired to their dorms. Now, only he and Shinso remained. Is something wrong? Izuku asked. The purple-haired boy sighed before placing his hand on the back of his neck. Everything's strange. The boy admitted. When they held us, both Bakugo and me, they said that we would be great future allies because of the inner darkness that we held, that the hero's path wasn't for us. Then, I saw how that member of the press hinted that my quirk was villainous, and I started to wonder. He sighed. Will I be remembered as a hero or a villain? Aizawa Sensei and Nedzu defended you. Izuku replied. Society SCKS. We can't deny it. Don't pay attention to them. Some people really cared about you. I know that, but it's difficult. Shinso said. People don't usually expect good things from me, except for several here at UA and my family. Izuku snorted and lay down on the grass, his gaze directed at the night sky. Even though he couldn't see the stars, it was comforting. Accompany me, he told the purple-haired. The grass feels like your hair. Shinso looked strangely at him before dropping his shoulders and throwing himself to the ground at the side of Izuku. Why are we lying on the grass staring at the dark sky? Because we are seeing things that seem not to be there. Izuku said, there are no visible stars, but we know they are there. Your quirk can be used for both heroics and villain, but you are a good person. So the villain is not there. How do you know? Sometimes I do unheroic things. The boy confessed. Izuku sighed. We can no longer classify everything in black and white, good and bad. We can only say that if something is mediocre or acceptable at the time, believe me, you will be a great hero if you continue on this path, never doubt that. You're crazy. Shinso snorted. But the best people are. Can't you come with us, Midoriya-senpai? Uraraka asked. We need some extra motivation. Izuku denied. With Aizawa-sensei's, enough and plenty. Lots of complaints flooded the bus. Kaminari stuck his torso out the window. Wish us luck. I wish you success. Izuku told them, raising his hand. Before Aizawa-sensei got on the bus, he nodded towards Izuku, and the boy returned the gesture. Everyone, calm down. The voice of his mentor was heard. We're leaving. Within seconds, the bus was prepared and subsequently began to move forward. Izuku started laughing when a student stuck half of their bodies out the windows and yelled in unison. Bye, Midoriya-senpai. Thanks for the good wishes. He could see out of the corner of his eye as Aizawa got up from his seat and activated his quirk. His eyes were glowing red, and his hair was levitated. Most likely, he was yelling at the guys to return to their seats. Now that he thought about it, Izuku stopped short and slapped his face with his open palm. Sheet. He whispered. I didn't tell them they'll be the prey. Don't you tell them about the crushing of UA? Suzuki scolded. What kind of senpai are you? Izuku shrugged. I know they can deal with it. Liar, you forgot to do it. His mind scolded. You are cruel. Hinata said, throwing herself on the couch with a bowl of popcorn. Those poor unfortunate souls are going to their doom. Fewer frowned. But we didn't know it either, and we all got our licenses. Yeah. And we didn't even have half of the experience of those guys. Ishikawa exclaimed over his seaweed tea. Let's just hope they give their best. I don't doubt that. Izuku smiled as he poured himself a cup of Yorozu's tea. This is the most expensive thing I will have on my stomach, Izuku thought amusedly. How are you so sure? Ninasotaya asked. Izuku shrugged and took a sip from his cup, the warm liquid caressing his taste buds and then running warmly down his throat. I just know it. He admitted. They have spirit. Those guys are gonna be fine. Aren't they going to be okay? Here. Ninasotaya snorted. Izuku rolled his eyes. 18 students out of 20 is not bad. Suzuki frowned after reading the report. Bakugo and Todoroki. Izuku nodded, running a hand over his face as he looked at the students' grades. At least they didn't fail the crushing of UA, he thought. They failed because of their own. It ended up being that Bakugo had yelled at the actors who played the victims and caused unnecessary damage. At the same time, Todoroki had ended up facing a Shiketsu student during the rescue part. Idiots. I don't want to sound cruel, Suzuki began, but if someone was going to fail, I thought it would be Hagekyo or Shinso, not those two. Todoroki and Bakugo had shown that they were strong students. They had almost destroyed the stadium at the sports festival. Shinso and Hagekyo were the least destructive students in Class A. He and Aizawa Sensei had talked about them. Those two had the lowest chance of passing the exam, considering they would face second-year students with extremely powerful quirks. Neither would have an advantage over the exam format. But they had passed, obtaining their licenses, even if they had almost failed. Hagekyo's positive and cheerful attitude had earned her many points. After her poor performance in aspects of quirk use. Instead, Shinso received criticism from the actors who played the victims. Apparently, he was not comforting enough, and that his mask was scary. But the purple-haired boy was going to be an underground hero. So, his look was not necessary to be nice. Also, considering that Aizawa-sensei could look like a homeless man, and Izuku had all the vibes of being a vigilante. Quirks don't define the hero. Ishikawa pointed out. I'm only useful if I'm near water. I can't produce enough to control it. Fewer tapped him on the flippers. The support team is preparing something for you to do that. She reminded him. If we think of useless quirks, think about mine. I can fluff things. I pass the entrance exam by fluffing the robots and make them fall. Izuku frowned. In Class B, there's a boy named Honinuki, who can soften anything he touches. Recommendation student. Fewer opened her eyes. Really? I have to talk to Silky. It would be amazing to have someone with a quirk like mine. She exclaimed. The girl took her phone and began to write enthusiastically. Now that you mention it, who will you go with for your work studies this year? Hinata asked enthusiastically. I'll go with native. We'll practice increasing the range of my whistles. Good choice. Suzuki pointed out. I would go with Fatgum again, but I want to improve other aspects. So, I decided to go with Kakusada. Oh, the skin hero. Sisimiya exclaimed. Ninasotaya and I were thinking of going with Mr. Brave. What about you, Midoriya? Ishikawa asked. Eraserhead. Izuku shook his head. He's involved in an investigation, so I'll talk to Miss Joke. What? His friends blurted out in unison in disbelief. Does this count as betrayal for Era-sensei? Suzuki exclaimed. Miss Joke proposed to him on the day of the license test. Izuku shrugged. She does it every time they meet. Aizawa-sensei is used to her. That woman has my respects. Ninasotaya exclaimed. Anyone capable of teasing Era-sensei and getting away with it deserves heaven. It will be interesting. Izuku said. Although she may not look like one, she's part of Undergrounds. I can learn a lot from her. His plans were thrown in the trash when All Might intervened him in the hallway. So, Night Eye? He asked. All Might nodded. I passed one for all to young Tagata, but is having a hard time with it. Nedzu recommended me that I should talk to you, young Midoriya, so that you will help him to control it. Izuku, confused, blinked. Do you know this is work studies? Do you know? Do we have to get stronger and better? All Might nodded. I know you were thinking of going with Miss Joke, but consider the offer with Night Eye. You can learn other things. Like research, plus patrol on your own. It sounded tempting. Night Eye had been All Might's sidekick for a while. Since he didn't feel completely comfortable in the presence of the peace symbol, he couldn't judge his former sidekick either. Especially, considering that he was a hero without a flashy quirk. Also, Izuku liked Tagata. He was nice and funny. His resemblance to All Might had already stopped irritating him. Helping him control one for all would be good practice for his analysis. There were many positive points. So? All Might asked, smiling. Do you agree, young Midoriya? He extended his hand. Izuku sighed and accepted it. It's a deal. This is, Hitoshi exclaimed, I have no options for work studies. I'm screwed. Are you sure? Midoriya-senpai asked with a smile that could only spell trouble. Hitoshi narrowed his eyes in suspicion. Midoriya-senpai snorted at the expression and handed him a folder. I think I have the solution. The green-haired boy told him. And without saying more, he stepped out of Hitoshi's sight. The purple-haired boy blinked in confusion before opening the folder suspiciously. When he saw the information that was there, he snorted. Interesting. He nodded. Midoriya. Aizawa-sensei said. Izuku put on his best I don't kill a fly look. Yes, Aizawa-sensei. Really? Joke? He asked, lifting Shinso's paper. Izuku shrugged. He asked me and it happened that I had Miss Joke's contact. Aizawa-sensei grunted and dropped his head on the desk. Why the fu, a quirkless, could get a license, and I didn't? Bakugo yelled at him. The blonde's hands were gripping Izuku's hoodie by the neck, his eyes furious and bloodshot. Because I didn't act like you. Izuku said, freeing himself from the first-year student's grip. Bakugo rolled his eyes. Obviously, you don't act like me. Because you're not like me. He spat as he approached Izuku and looked him in the eyes. Izuku was not very tall. Therefore, he and Bakugo were almost the same height. He was just a few inches taller than Izuku. Izuku shook his head. But with civilians, you must act well. You don't want to be another Endeavor. He pointed out. You know what you did wrong on that exam. You don't want to accept it. You know nothing. He growled. You don't know anything. Then explain. Izuku challenged. I hear you. Bakugo's bloodshot eyes glared at him with murderous rage, his fists clenched, his knuckles turning white. Always, people told that I'm the best. He spat. I came here, expecting to be number they're all extras, but shit. It seems everyone is better than me. I'm supposed to be the best. Round Cheeks kept me in the arena longer than anyone at the sports festival. My internship with Best Jeanist was a waste of time. Eyebags beat me in a race. I passed the practical test, thanks to Round Cheeks. I was kidnapped at camp, and dash. Bakugo didn't finish the sentence because his eyes started to fill with tears and his growls turned into sobs. What the F dash? The last time Izuku had seen the boy cry had been when they were still children. What was affecting him so much? I'm weak. He blurted out. I'm SOF weak that I couldn't stop from being kidnapped. Because of my fault, All Might can't be a hero anymore. What should I do? Izuku thought, panicking. Hug him? No, this is Bakugo. Tell him that everything will be okay? No, if what Aizawa-sensei said a few days ago is correct, everything will go to hell. Should I call Aizawa-sensei? Hound Dog? All Might? Kirishima? Uraraka? Shinso to use his quirk in Bakugo to calm him down? Then Izuku had an idea. A destructive one. But it would be nice for the boy. Bakugo, he said. The blonde was still teary-eyed. What the F do you want? He yelled. You already see me being pathetic. Do you want to spread your quirkless ego in my face or something? Izuku shook his head. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., meet me here. There is a place where I want to take you. Could I receive a special pass, Bakugo included, to leave UA from 4 p.m. until curfew? Aizawa Sensei narrowed his eyes. Reason? He asked. To release rage. Why are we here, Aizawa Sensei? To release rage. Aizawa Sensei nodded. You have 1 hour of tolerance from the end of the curfew. If you don't comply, I'll give you both detention, get it? Perfectly clear. Izuku replied. I'm tired of being underestimated. I'm sick of being considered weak. I'm tired of everyone. I'm not weak. I'm not useless. I'm not a waste of space. My name is Midoriya Izuku. No quirkless boy. Are you listening to me? My name is Midoriya Izuku. I'm quirkless, and I'm not ASAP to admit it. So stop using it as an insult. Mido-senpai. Hatsume's enthusiastic voice greeted him from the intercom. Hatsume? He asked. Shouldn't you be in the bedrooms? I applied for a weekend pass to take care of this place while my mom is visiting a friend. The girl exclaimed. Izuku smirked. Do you have crazier ideas? Yes. The girl squealed. Winning the sports festival was as good as you recommended. Island was fantastic. I have so many new ideas for new babies. Bakugo's eyes widened in surprise. Crazy items? Blasty is with you. The girl exclaimed. Are you here to release rage? You know, Hatsume. Izuku replied. Wait a minute. I'm going to open the gate. The girl said. Aizawa-kun? What a surprise. A salmon-haired lady greeted them. Same here, Hatsume-san. Aizawa-sensei said. It's Midoriya, my student. My pleasure, Hatsume-san. Izuku shyly greeted. The woman looked down and examined the green-haired boy as if she was looking for something wrong with him. Release rage? She asked. Aizawa-sensei nodded. It has been a stressful season. Release rage? Bakugo snorted. What kind of sheet is that? The kind of sheet that keeps you sane. Izuku replied as they followed Hatsume. It's quite therapeutic. And fun. Hatsume exclaimed, but only if you don't use your quirk. Why the F can't I use my quirk? Bakugo growled. Because you would do it faster, and that completely removes the motive for this. Izuku shrugged. After a few more seconds of walking, they found themselves in front of a pile of rusty cars and home appliances. Most likely, they were free of anything that could be salvageable and reusable, Hatsume's courtesy. Well, the girl said, turning and spreading her arms. You can destroy everything in this area. No quirks. At the end of her directions, the girl handed both boys protective goggles and baseball bats. This is so American. Izuku joked. The girl nodded. It's what it is. She exclaimed. Release rage. What are we doing, Aizawa-sensei? Izuku took the baseball bat that Mrs. Hatsume had handed him. Aizawa-sensei gave one of his calm smiles, put on his goggles, and walked towards the cars. Many people confuse rage with anger. His mentor pointed out. Anger is like a fire that consumes you from inside. Instead, rage contained frustration, a storm of anger and sadness. It's lethal, he said and raised his baseball bat. Izuku's eyes widened in surprise as the commonly stoic teacher banged on the window of one of the cars. The glass on it exploded at the touch of the wood. Therefore, you have to release it. This is pathetic. Bakugo claimed. Better fight me. Izuku shook his head. You can't hurt people every time you feel like this. He said and held out the baseball bat. Take this and break things until you feel like you can breathe again. What is going to fix this? The damage has been done. The blonde yelled. You can't fix what's already done. Izuku said. But you can't let your emotions hurt others. Stop using your cheap philosophy and fight me. Bakugo exploded. Have you heard of the kintsugi? Aizawa Sensei asked. Izuku nodded. It's breaking ceramic and reattaching it with special resin varnish. Aizawa Sensei nodded. Do you know why it is considered an art and part of a philosophy? Izuku denied. In the face of adversity and mistakes, you have to know how to recover and cope with the scars. His mentor replied. It will sound masochistic, but there is beauty in the pain we have been through. Izuku knew pain better than anyone. The only light in his life for a while had been his mother and the Bakugo. He sometimes remembered the most sinister thoughts that overwhelmed him and tried to push them away. Scars are not aesthetic, but they are proof of our battles. Aizawa Sensei said. Sometimes, to repair something, you have to break it first. And remember, broken does not mean irreparable. Izuku walked over and abruptly placed the bat on the blonde's chest. Take this thing and destroy that car. He ordered. Release your rage and destroy that effing car. It was strange to hear Izuku scream. He was commonly a calm and quiet presence. It was even weirder to hear him angry. Bakugo was seeing those two facets in one. Anger can give you strength, but rage leaves you completely blind. Izuku said. That's why you can't suppress your emotions like this. Do you saw what happened in the license exam, right? And then Bakugo's bloodshot eyes turned murderous. The blonde ripped the bat out of Izuku's hands and yelled, running towards one of the cars. Aren't you sick, Midoriya? Aizawa Sensei said. Do you remember what happened today? What Kanemoto said? Izuku's fingers wrapped around the bat tightly. He said that I was too weak to be on the hero course. That I was just a waste of space. And is it true? Are you a burden? Aizawa Sensei asked him. I am not. Izuku squealed. Suppressing emotions is never a good thing. His mentor pointed out. You have to release them from time to time, get it? Izuku nodded. He was shaking. At this, his teacher reached out his hand and motioned for him to approach. Izuku felt his grip on the bat tighten, and he started walking. Bakugo started hitting the car with the bat. The anger that the blonde felt could be felt vibrating in the air. I was supposed to be the best. Not AF weak. He yelled. It's my fault that All Might has retired. It's my fault that he can't be a hero anymore. Tears began to flow from his eyes. Are you sure it is your fault? Izuku yelled. Understand it's not your fault. Free yourself from the false guilt now. Just destroy that car, Midoriya. Aizawa Sensei told him. I promise there is nothing wrong with that. Really? Izuku quietly asked. Am I not weak if I do? Aizawa Sensei denied. You are not weak if you have emotions. You are weak if you repress them. And then Izuku took a deep breath and, with all his accumulated strength and rage, he struck the car. It took several minutes for Bakugo's blows to subside. The blonde was sweaty. There were still traces of tears running down his cheeks. His red face and puffy eyes. But he looked calmer. Are you feeling better, Kaken? Izuku asked. It was effing great. Bakugo exclaimed. Izuku smiled. I'm glad. He bent down and started rummaging through his backpack until he pulled a towel from inside and tossed it in the blonde's direction. Dry off. He ordered. We have a few hours before we go back to UA. I think it's enough time to visit our mothers and arrive before curfew. He said, checking his phone. Come on, we have to pay to Hatsune. Calm, child. Aizawa Sensei said, approaching Izuku while he was weakly hitting the car. You have suppressed your emotions for a long time, right? Izuku sobbed before nodding. I'm trying. He said. I really don't want to fail. This is my dream. You have potential. Aizawa Sensei put his hand on Izuku's head and stroked his hair a bit. Remember, you are the only one I didn't expel this year. And I want to do this. Izuku said. I want this with all my will, seriously. But it all comes back to me. You mean the insults and teasing? Aizawa Sensei asked. Izuku nodded. Several times, they left me red spider lilies. He said and watched as his mentor's eyes filled with fury. They told me I wasn't worth and things like those. That I was better off dead. Seriously, I thought it hadn't affected me. But, today, after so long, it came back. That suicidal bullying, child. Aizawa Sensei growled. What was your school's name? Aldera Junior High. Izuku replied. Why are you asking? I think Nedzu could visit them. He replied nonchalantly before sighing and crouching down at Izuku's height. This world wouldn't be a better place without you, get it? Izuku nodded with his head down. I hope you're sincere. Aizawa Sensei said. Because you still have a way to go. Mistakes to make and suffering to live. Izuku felt the weight of his mentor's hand on his shoulder, and he raised his head slightly. But there are also experiences that you will enjoy, okay? It's not your time. Was it okay, Midoriya? Aizawa Sensei asked after Bakugo went to his bedroom. Pretty good. Izuku replied. Hatsune-san is on a trip, but I was able to talk to her. She sends her regards. His mentor nodded. Good to hear. He replied. Good night, Midoriya. Good night, Aizawa Sensei. So, are you Midoriya? Sir Night-Eye said, drawing his slim figure closer to him. This man is more intimidating than Sensei. He thought. How is this possible? Izuku nodded, trying to stay calm. Yes, my pleasure, Sir Night-Eye. The man frowned and looked him up and down as if searching for something, examining him. Izuku watched as the man's slender fingers approached his face, and the second-year student quickly grabbed his wrist. It's rude to see the future of others without asking their permission. He said and released the man. Sir Night-Eye blinked for a few seconds before nodding calmly. I see that it's not in vain what people say about you. The thin man exclaimed as he walked towards his desk. Eraserhead is a complicated man. I was surprised when I heard that he had an apprentice. And he has another one this year. Izuku added. He is a good mentor. Sir Night-Eye nodded. Yes, he seems like one. He said quietly as he held out his hand. Your papers? 1 second. Izuku requested as he bent down to find the folder with the forms for his work study. He felt the familiar texture on his hand palm and drew it from inside his backpack. He got up and handed it to the man in front of him. Sir Night-Eye looked at the sheet. What are you going to contribute to my agency? He asked. Izuku shrugged. All Might asked me to come here to support Tagata with his handling of One for All. The man in the suit frowned. Why would that be, Midoriya? To be honest, I don't know. He admitted calmly. He offered me One for All, but I declined. Maybe it's because I'm good at analyzing quirks. As I said, I'm lost as much as you are. I always like honesty. The man grumbled as he pressed the seal against the blade. I would be lying if I said I'm not intrigued. May we both be surprised. Izuku finished. 15%. Izuku asked. Tagata nodded. I redirect the energy to a point in my body and use it from there. Izuku frowned. Haven't you thought of better utilizing the energy throughout your body? I mean, distribute it. It would work with your original quirk. The blonde boy tilted his head. Like a new move? Full Cowl would be a great name. Izuku added jokingly. You could also create air currents from kicking or using pressurized air. There are many variations, not just punching. He pointed a graph in his notebook to the older student. But you have reached a good control. It must be because of your quirk. Tagata blinked in confusion. How? The green-haired student shrugged. Your quirk allows you to go through anything. Most likely, the energy will pass through you. So, you don't break your bones as All Might warned you. Grateful for it. Tagata sighed. All that explanation of my limbs exploding and me dying gave me nightmares. It was a possibility. Izuku admitted. Quirks get stronger every generation, and this one is transferable. It must have accumulated a lot of energy. Especially considering all the time that All Might was its wielder. Tagata's eyes widened in panic. Could I have exploded? Yes. Izuku hummed. But you also have a strong body. The possibility was not very high. He pointed out as he watched his senpai calming down when he heard that. Let's practice. The second-year student said. Imagine an egg in a microwave. Izuku leaned towards the girl who had bumped into him. Are you okay? He said, stretching out his hand. The girl trembled in fright, and she pulled away from him slightly, her small figure trying to shrink and crawl down the sidewalk. Izuku felt his heart clench. A scared and trembling girl running full of bandages was not a sign of a loving home. Izuku had been one himself before his father abandoned him and his mother. Then he observed a man, coming from the same alley, with a mask similar to a bird as if they were in a time of plague. A green and purple coat resting on his shoulders. You can't go around causing trouble for the heroes. Oh shit, he thought. My daughter A likes to play around a lot, and keeps getting hurt. This is overhaul. Night Eye is after him. Tagata decided to continue the conversation with Chisaki in an attempt to get out of the situation. The girl, Eri, held on tighter to Izuku, begging him not to let her go. She doesn't look too happy. Izuku said coldly. She looks scared. Chisaki narrowed his eyes. She falls a lot. It's child's play to get hurt. I don't see how much damage can cause childish falls. Izuku growled, feeling the little girl's tears. I will not let you go. There are a lot of people here. If you accompany me to the alley, it would be more private. Chisaki suggested, turning around. Tagata nodded, and Izuku lifted Eri. They both started to follow the man. Kids seriously think that? Eri broke free. She jumped out of Izuku's arms and ran to Chisaki. See? The Yakuza said quietly. She is a girl. They are always like this. Sorry for wasting your time. But Izuku started. Kids are kids. Tagata interrupted. Don't worry, Void. You let them go. Izuku growled once they were alone. You let them go. Tagata sighed. If we catch them now, we won't be able to track down the rest of the base of operations. We have to ask Sir. I don't care about Night Eye. Izuku yelled. You let a villain take a girl who was running away. I know it looks bad, but aren't you Eraserhead's protege? It's the most logical decision. Even if we don't like it. He was right. Izuku was getting carried away by emotions. Those parallels with his childhood full of abusers. He wanted to be a hero for those ignored and rejected people who would ask for help. He had been one too. Tagata was the successor of All Might. He was as bright as the hero, so smiling and strong. His mere presence seemed to reassure people. Izuku? He went unnoticed. Nobody realized that he was there. That was the point of being an underground hero. He had rejected All Might because he didn't want to be the kind of hero one for all required. Tagata Mirio did. Tagata Mirio and Izuku Midoriya were completely different people. Two different people with the same offer made. If Izuku had accepted, things would be different. But he didn't regret having refused. What he regretted was not having done more for that little girl. Shota! Yamada said, standing under the doorframe of his office. He looked up from the essays he was correcting. What? Shota growled. Some students want to talk to you. They can wait until we have classes. He replied as he checked Kaminari's homework. The child was improving. The blonde hummed. I don't think you can do that. You don't have classes with them. Moeta sighed. Good morning, Aizawa Sensei. I don't know if you remember my name. I'm Fua Moeta from Class 2A. She greeted calmly. Behind her, half of 2A class was waiting for the teacher's response. The man narrowed his eyes. What do you want? He growled in response. In front of Aizawa were two piles of papers. To his right, seemed to be the qualified ones. To his left, the ones that hadn't been reviewed. We're worried, she said calmly, trying to ignore the raven-haired man's rude reply. Why are you talking? He asked as he pulled another paper out of the row to the left. I'm the class representative, she exclaimed. Moeta could feel Ishikawa and Suzuki tensing behind her. Aizawa pinched the bridge of his nose before releasing the pen he was correcting with and leaning back in the chair. His arms crossed over his chest with his typical stoic and tired expression. Then speak up. The raven-haired man growled. If you come to me instead of your current homeroom teacher it must be important. She sighed. Midoriya is. How do I put it? She said, and her eyes sought support from her classmates. They hadn't become statues, had they? Ishikawa sighed. Out of himself. He intervened. Sad, upset. He's like a whirlpool of emotions. Yes. Suzuki stated. Yesterday, he cried seeing his katsudon. He loves katsudon. We thought it would put him in a better mood. But he just cried even more and he didn't even touch it. Hinata added. After that, he hasn't spoken to any of us again. He doesn't leave his bedroom during non-school hours. Ninasotaya explained. Thanks, guys. She thought. He got us worried. Moeta finished. We think if you talk to him, it would be the best. Aizawa just sighed and ran his hand over his face. It must be bad because, otherwise, you wouldn't have come to me. They were putting their pride aside to support Midoriya. At least those closest to him. That's what friends do, right? Midoriya would do it for them. When he stayed up all night explaining math to Moeta. The time he helped Ishikawa with his quirk. When he scoured the entire shopping district in search of Suzuki's favorite cupcakes. When he took care of Ninasotaya's little brothers because the boy had to work overtime. Talking with Aizawa was the least they could do for their friend. The man sighed. Thanks for letting me know. I'll talk to him. Moeta bowed. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. He's here, right? Shota asked Hatsume-san. The pink-haired woman nodded. He looked quite sad, but I think he's calmer now. That's good. Shota sighed. I'll talk to him. Izuku was leaving the last bits of frustration in the car. This is why you have been distracted in class. The stoic and calm voice of his mentor took him out of his thoughts. Didn't we agree that you would do this well? Izuku remembered Aizawa's words. I will keep an eye on you. If you're going to do this, do it right, Midoriya. Got it, problem child? I'm releasing rage. Izuku said, wiping the remnants of tears from his eyes. I was just frustrated. I almost committed a recklessness that could cost lives. Tagata was the one who held me back. The man hummed. I heard that, but you didn't. It's a nice change, considering what happened at your work-study last year. The scars were still on his hand, the marks had never completely disappeared. What are you doing here, Aizawa-sensei? Izuku asked. It's not to be rude, but I didn't expect to see anyone here. Because your friends were worried, his mentor said. Friends? Izuku frowned. The class I expelled. The man replied. They hold you in high regard. The guys from class 2A? Had they talked to the man they held a grudge against just because of Izuku? Was Izuku really that important to them? Don't look surprised, problem child. Aizawa-sensei said. You earn the esteem of people who are willing to meet you. Your classmates, my students, UA faculty, heroes. Those were things that he had talked about with Inui-san. Since the beginning of his first year, the UA therapist had seen him, and recently Izuku had been going less often. Everything for him to get out of his head that he was inferior to others. Years of ostracism do that to your head. He had expected discrimination and loneliness. But, barring a few students, Izuku had found a school that cared about him, had met wonderful people and was fulfilling his dream. So, stop getting depressed, because no one has died. His teacher said. 2. Is human. What you do after that is what defines you. In the middle of the night, Izuku Midoriya's phone rang. It's time. Since he could remember, Izuku knew he wanted to be a hero. Since he was 4, people told him that he could never be one. The sobs of his mother and the constant stream of apologies pouring out of her voice still pierced his soul. Mom, can I be a hero without a quirk? I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry, Izuku. I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry, Izuku. I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry, Izuku. And so, he continued his life, with the burning desire to be a hero and training for it. He would take any class that accepted quirkless children. He would do any training regimen. Ballet, kendo, kickboxing, karate, gymnastics, swimming, kung fu, capoeira, parkour, fencing, etc. Izuku would be a hero. He would be a hero like All Might. A hero who would save everyone with a bright smile. Or so he would believe until he met the man in person. He was not proud of what he had done. It definitely hadn't been his brightest idea. But, for his 14-year-old self, it was a necessary measure for his idol to give him the confidence boost he needed. He ended up with the hero telling him that he had to be more realistic. Being a hero is dangerous. You can't do it without great power. If you want to save people, you could join the police force or be a firefighter. It's okay to dream, kid, but you have to be realistic. And he left, leaving Izuku with broken dreams and hopelessness on a rooftop. What kind of person leaves a child on a rooftop after saying that? Rather, what kind of hero? Well, it ends up being that instead of demotivating him, it lit a fire that Izuku didn't know he had. Anger is a great motivator, use it correctly, and it's capable of propelling you to success. Letting it dominate rationality and will create a painful fall. So, he trained harder. He needed more flexibility if he wanted to pursue underground heroism. Brute force wouldn't help. It was his routine, until the date of the entrance exam. That day, he faced the fact that he was against robots. Robots. How would guys with quirks intended for organic matter or those that only affected people do it? Worse yet, how would Izuku do it? The answer came in the form of a red stop sign. The fake city where the test was taking was ridiculously accurate. They could turn those into homeless shelters if they wanted to. He took the signal and ran as far as he could. The other applicants destroyed all the robots they came across, leaving none to people like Izuku. So, he had to go to an area without the other children and take advantage of those robots, while avoiding that some children were crushed by the machines or injured by the quirks of others. He smashed a few robots and then it happened. The zero sheet pointer. Small obstacle, my butt. The exams at UA were supposed to change every year, but it ended up being that the exam consists of the same thing, only that there are slight variations. The case of this one? It was a city. The previous one had been in a kind of industrial area full of pipes. So, Izuku planned to continue destroying robots until he realized that some people needed help. Some of quirk exhaustion, others had been trapped under rubble. The robot advanced. They're going to stop it. Right? Izuku ran to the aid of those people. When the end of time was announced, he was disappointed. Only 15 DMN points. It wouldn't be enough. He was grateful that he was wrong and helped those people. 50 F points, 35 rescue plus 15 villain. Furthermore, he had achieved the best score on the written exam, 95%. He had passed the grade of present MIC and other heroes who had studied there. His dream was taking off. Joining UA had been the easy part. Staying there with a teacher like Aizawa Shota, Eraserhead, was somewhat difficult. Everything had started on the first day of school. 20 enthusiastic hopeful heroes in Class 1A, among which there were 5 who were quirkists. They started teasing a boy with fish features, asking him why he wasn't in a fish tank. Then a girl with a dog mutation was asked if she wanted a cookie. They made fun of another boy's bald head and a girl's quirk. When they finally reached Izuku, he admitted with all the pride in the world that he was quirkless. His classmates made faces of astonishment, but the idiot scoffed at him and asked him why he was still there if quirkless people were supposed to be extinct. Then, a kind of yellow caterpillar caught his attention from the doorframe. Out of it came a man dressed in black, looking tired and disheveled. Izuku recognized Eraserhead from his scarf. It only took the man 5 minutes between showing up, introducing himself, expelling the quirkists, and asking them to do physical apprehension tests, with the use of quirk allowed. All this at the risk of expulsion. They wouldn't give him that much power, right? Especially since they hadn't done anything wrong yet. At the end of the apprehension test, Izuku was in the bottom 5, but he wasn't the last. Aizawa Sensei expelled 10 other students. So there were only 5 left. The girl, whose quirk fluffed everything she touched, introduced herself as Fewer Moreta. The boy with the fish mutation name was Ishikawa Kenji. A girl who could inflate like a balloon named Suzuki Aoi. Another boy named Sisimiya, who could grow his hair at will and no one could cut it except for himself. And himself, Midoriya Izuku, quirkless. By the end of the first day, everything seemed fine. His classmates were nice and didn't give a DMN that he was quirkless. The joy was short-lived when Aizawa Sensei expelled Fewer, then Sisimiya, Suzuki, and finally Ishikawa. At the end of the week, Izuku nervously arrived at UA and was already mentally prepared for his expulsion. After all, he had expelled a whole class, even the student with the best score on the practical test. What stopped him from expelling Izuku? You survived the first week. Congratulations. What? You're the only one who won't have an expulsion mark on your record. Your classmates will. Aren't you going to expel me? Do you want me to do it? Of course not. Why do you ask me? Because you expelled my classmates. Child, I don't waste my time on useless things. I only teach students with potential. Do you really think I have potential? It's not 0. Even though I'm quirkless. I don't see what would be the relevance of it in the field of heroism. Do you really think I could become a hero without a quirk? Do you believe it? If you don't have confidence in yourself, then maybe I overestimated your potential. No. I can be a hero. So here is your chance, child. Don't waste it. One opportunity is enough and plenty. 14 of his original classmates were re-enrolled and offered to have another homeroom teacher. Snipe took Class A, while Izuku became Netsu's personal student and was trained by Aizawa Sensei. He was still a member of Class A. He was with them for heroics and some general education classes. Sometimes, he even joined the support department. After the sports festival, he didn't participate. Kiyama-sensei entered the classroom to announce that they would be choosing hero names. Some were creative. Ishikawa was for the aquatic hero, Luca, in honor of the pre-quirk movie where the protagonist was a sea creature boy, and his name was Luca, which means last universal common ancestor. Fewer went for cotton candy because the things she touched felt like cotton. Suzuki chose Colossal. Sisimiya chose Samson. Ninasotaya, target shooting, among others. When Izuku's turn came, he came out with the blank slate. Midoriya, you were supposed to write there. Suzuki said. Come on. Guess. Empty. Fewer asked. You are close. Oh. Your name refers to your quirklessness, right? Hinata asked. That girl needed to learn to have a filter, but she did it without malicious intent. Izuku nodded. I know. Sisimiya exclaimed. It's Void. Following Aizawa around the rooftops was an interesting experience. His parkour and gymnastics skills were very supportive of his keeping up with the underground hero. He began educating and training Izuku to be a future one. Months later, with a provisional license, Izuku could already actively participate in patrols. Aizawa-sensei always complained about his recklessness and his martyr complex. Izuku, seriously, wanted to keep that lesson in his head. But it wasn't until a villain cornered them when Izuku completely forgot what his mentor had taught him. It was a quiet night. They just had to arrest a few drug dealers. They didn't expect one of them to have a strong mutant quirk. One that Aizawa-sensei couldn't erase. Much less, the bullet going to hit his mentor. What do you think makes a person a hero? The interviewer asked. All Might smiled. There are different types of heroes. Not just my profession. I consider it as a matter of heart. And for our viewers who wish to be professional heroes like you, I'll just say that if you ask pro heroes about their school experiences, they all will tell you, at least, one anecdote of their bodies moving on their own to save someone. Void! Tagata yelled as he watched the blood pour out of Izuku's stomach and limbs. Aizawa-sensei would kill him for getting in the way of a bullet again. Much more to push to get impaled. See what you cause, eh? One of your heroes has lost his quirk. Overho shouted jubilantly. Eri trembled in fear. Tears rolling down her pale cheeks and her hands gripping Tagata's cloak. Hey, Overho! Izuku yelled. I'm quirkless. The villain's expression changed drastically to one of surprise and then confusion. It entertained him long enough because Mirio attacked. Come on, Eri! Izuku said as he took the little girl's hand. He was leaning against the wall. Heroes are waiting for us. We have to get out of here. With each step, Izuku left a trail of blood. It came to a point where his vision began to fail. His weight overcame him. He fell. Get up! Izuku yelled helplessly to his body. Get up, Midoriya Izuku! Izuku couldn't get up. His body didn't obey his orders. At this rate, he wouldn't save Eri, and all the work would be wasted. Please! Izuku begged. Hide. We came here to save you. If you hide, you will help us a lot. He didn't know if Eri responded because the darkness blinded him, and he fell into unconsciousness. When Izuku opened his eyes, he saw Aizawa-sensei sitting on the chair next to the bed where he was lying. He felt sore and confused. How did he get there? The last memory his mind evoked was receiving the text message approving the raid to save Eri. Aizawa-sensei? He asked. His throat felt dry, and his voice sounded hoarse. His mentor snapped his eyes open and turned to see Izuku. Hello, child. Aizawa-sensei greeted before sighing. This is not the right way to regain my trust. He teased lightly. Izuku inhaled deeply. What happened? My head is a mess. He replied, trying to sit up. Ouch. He thought as pain erupted in his stomach. Bad, really bad choice. It must be because you were sleeping. His teacher suggested. Also, the healing quirks and the amount of blood you lost. Blood. Eri's blood. Quirk-destroying bullets. The blood that had drained from his stomach when he launched himself to prevent Tagata and Eri from being impaled. Tagata covering Eri as spikes exploded from the ground. The quirk-destroying bullet that Izuku had received instead of Tagata. How ironic. Izuku mentally snorted. What's a quirk-destroying bullet going to do me? Give me one? Did the bullet have any effect on me? Izuku asked. His teacher shook his head. It only affects the quirk factor. You don't have one. Nothing happened. At least. Izuku thought. How did it all end? Tagata? Izuku asked, remembering that he had left the blonde facing Overho and that he had passed out while trying to escape with. Eri. Aizawa sighed. Eri is quarantined. She has a fever. Also, the excessive use of her quirk. The man said with a touch of bitterness in his voice. Eri will be treated by psychologists due to post-traumatic stress and will be under my guardianship. On the other hand, unfortunately, Night Eye passed away. Sometimes they couldn't save everyone. They had to accept it if they wanted to be heroes. Although it always hurt, and there was that feeling of guilt. What if? Possibilities crashing into thoughts. Everything that wasn't made. Being a hero was not what the TV painted. Being a hero was to be willing to carry burdens. If you can't do it, you shouldn't be one. Losses are part of the job. Obviously, he felt sad for Night Eye. It was not as if Izuku had been able to know him in depth, beyond a few conversations. But he felt worse thinking about how Tagata had reacted. The man was a kind of father figure to the blonde. His mentor. The man who believed in him. He hoped they had come to say goodbye. He left you a note. Aizawa-sensei said, handing him a piece of paper. He asked a nurse to write it down while he waited for Tagata. Izuku nodded, taking it. How was Tagata? Shattered. His teacher replied. But he will recover. He's strong. He really is. Izuku said as he stroked the folded paper. His teacher must have noticed that Izuku might need some time alone because he sighed heavily and got up from his chair. I'll call the nurse to check you. I'll call your mother, too. I told her I would keep an eye on you. You have to stop giving her those scares. And so, Aizawa-sensei walked out the door, leaving Izuku alone and allowing him to shed some tears. His mother was going to kill him after a prolonged crying episode on her part. She was going to tell him that he had to start taking Aizawa-sensei's lessons seriously. That at this rate, he was going to kill her because of strong emotions. With his hands shaking, Izuku opened the paper that Night Eye had left for him. Please, take care of Mirio. His like All Might. Thanks for your help. Until always, Midoriya Izuku. Izuku, tell me. After Kamino. What do we talk about? His mother asked with teary eyes as she wrapped him in a delicate hug. Izuku raised his hand to caress her mother's hair at the same time he put his head in the crook of her neck. That I would help people without putting my life in danger. I remember it. Sorry, Mom. Please, Izuku. She begged. You need to listen to your teacher. Midoriya. Tagata greeted as he entered, carrying a basket of fruits in his hands. I brought fruits. They are from classes 1A and 2A. Izuku gurgled at that. My mom will be delighted. Tagata nodded as he placed the basket on the table. How did she react? We cried. It's a family second quirk. Izuku sighed. I feel bad for worrying her this much. I'm quite reckless. But you saved our lives. The blonde boy exclaimed. And everything is fine now. Stop concerning, and think that you'll be out of here by tomorrow. The room fell into an awkward silence, Tagata sitting in the chair next to Izuku's bed. I'm really sorry about Night Eye. Izuku said. I know you two were close. Tagata's smile didn't disappear. His eyes focused on the open window. Sir was a complex man, but he had a huge heart. Before he died, I made him a promise. I'll keep smiling for a bright future. That's my motto. Izuku frowned. When he was growing up, he had smiled a lot in a desperate attempt to hide everything that was happening to him. In that way, he wouldn't worry his mom. All Might always said that in his interviews. The people in this world who can smile are always the strongest. After his time training to be a pro hero, Izuku had realized that was true only to a certain point. All Might could afford to smile at civilians. He was the symbol of peace and a pillar for them. There were people who have the same mentality that Izuku had had when he was younger. People who received a boost from seeing the hero's smile. It was not bad. It gave hope. But crying wasn't a weakness too. Crying was liberating and he understood it after a long time. Expressing emotions wasn't something to be ashamed of. Setting them free. The point was that you had to know when to release those emotions. The right time. You know you can allow yourself to cry a little more, right? Izuku told Tagata. You're not All Might. The blonde nodded calmly. Don't worry, Midoriya. I think I've cried enough. Izuku sighed and finished with a shrug. Remember, I'm here to give you a hand. In case you need it. Void? Eri asked as she spotted Izuku at the door. He nodded calmly. It's me, Eri. How are you? Fine, I guess. Everyone is nice to me. I want to be their friend. I ate apples too. I like apples. The little girl replied calmly. The apples are delicious. Izuku said. A little bird told me that you would join us at the UA school festival. Is that right? Yes, Lemillion proposed it to Aizawa, and he said I could. They said there would be caramel apples. They're sweeter than normal ones. How is that possible? She really likes apples. Izuku thought. So many things are possible. Izuku exclaimed in a low voice. I'll give you the school's tour. Lemillion will join us later. Little Eri made a strange face. Izuku frowned. Sorry. Eri said. I can't smile yet. I asked Lemillion to teach me to do it, but he said that I shouldn't force myself. Lemillion is right. Izuku emphasized. Don't worry, Eri. There's plenty of time for you to smile. Can I give you a hand? Ishikawa asked as Izuku walked up the stairs in the direction of his bedroom. He wanted to be alone. Since he left the hospital, his friends hadn't left his side. According to them, it was to prevent him from ending up sacrificing for a fly. Izuku denied. Guys, no worry. I'm fine. His friends gave him a look that indicated that they didn't believe him at all. Fewer snorted. Of course, you're fine. It's not like you've been about to die again. Trust me, Izuku said, raising his hands in surrender. I promise. I'll only go to my room to sleep. I won't give my life for a fly. Hinata narrowed her eyes. Your mouth says words. But I'm not sure if your body will obey. Suzuki nodded. We should call the brainwasher from 1A. He would put Midoriya to sleep. Yeah. It's just to make it sure. Ninasotaya agreed. Izuku rolled his eyes and continued up the stairs. I'll see Class 1A tomorrow. Let me rest because I'll have to deal with them too. When Izuku entered 1A's classroom, he was received by a unison Midoriya senpai that was yelled by the first-year students. Izuku sighed. Hi, guys. How are you doing? Kiro, how are you feeling? Asui asked, ignoring Izuku's question. Fine, Izuku replied. The worst part is over. You were so manly in the raid. Kirishima exclaimed. Don't acclaim him. He was an imprudent sheet. Katsuki yelled at the redhead guy. After that, his attention focused on Izuku. You almost killed Auntie of Concern, F shitty nerd. That was Katsuki's way to say, you worried me a lot. Don't do it again. Shinso nodded. And to us. We thought you wouldn't live to count it. Izuku snorted. You're exaggerating, guys. I'm 85% fine. The ideal would be 100%. Uraraka said. It's part of being a hero. Izuku replied. After that, he gave them a reassuring smile. In other things, have you already chosen what to do for the school festival? It's the next week and we'll have a special guest. When Hitoshi asked Midoriya senpai regarding the event that Class 2A had held at the school festival in their first year, the green-haired boy ran. So, he asked Fewer senpai, and she sent him the link of a video. Now, they were laughing in the common room of the Class 1A dorms. The footage began with a man in a yellow sleeping bag and a group of 10 students surrounding him. Let him free. Midoriya wants to be free. A girl said. He recognized her as Suzuki A, one of the Midoriya senpai's friends. The girl was extending a sock in the direction of a giant covered cage. The man in the sleeping bag looked at them indifferently. Midoriya doesn't need you. He's perfectly fine. A shudder came from the Kag. Master! Midoriya wants to be free. Sisimiya, the boy who represented Aizawa Sensei's parody, walked furiously to the cage, removing the cloth that covered it. Inside the cage was a boy in a green wig and dressed in the same color from head to toe, wearing elf ears. Sisimiya growled and slammed the cage. Don't you dare to take my precious. Then, we will have to go over your corpse, Era Sensei. One of the girls yelled, and they began to strike each other. Don't F-dash. Zero exclaimed, clutching his stomach as the footage continued. What is this low-budget theater jewel name? Hitoshi sighed and checked the title of the video, The Elf Who Wanted to Be Free. It's a complete disrespect to a staff member. Ida exclaimed with his sporadic hand movements. They should have been expelled from UA. Bakugo snorted. Weren't you the one who went after Hero Killer? The room fell silent until an "oh-oh" was heard loudly. Turned down for what? Kaminari yelled. He, along with Mineta, began to dance around Ida. It lasted a few seconds because Gyro's headphones connected to both boys' ears. Shut up. I want to enjoy this before continuing with the concert preparations. The rocker said as the video continued. Midoriya is a free elf. The green-haired boy exclaimed, waving his sock excitedly. The audience laughed. Midoriya has no master. Midoriya is a free. The screen went completely black. What? Kirishima yelled. It was about 10 minutes to go. So close to the end. What happened? Hagakure asked. The power hasn't gone out. The students began to search for the reason why the television had suddenly turned off. They could not find the control. Maybe someone had sat on it. They heard a familiar cough, and everyone stiffly turned their heads. Under the door frame, with the control in hand, was Aizawa Sensei. That's the class that was expelled, he said quietly. Hitoshi began to pray mentally. Oi! This thing reads funny, Hinata exclaimed as she handed Moeta a piece of paper. She stifled a laugh when reading Romeo, Juliet and the Prisoner of Azkaban, The Return of the Kings in the brochure. They are gonna make a play. We wanted to do it. Ninasotaya sighed in disappointment. Ishikawa shrugged as he lifted some boxes. We're not allowed to make one anyway, he pointed out. Suzuki nodded. We passed a bit. Nah. They just don't understand the complex art of parody, Sisimiya defended. We are preparing a maid and butler cafe. Izuku answered Uraraka's question. I heard you guys decided on a concert. Kaminari nodded. Gyro is organizing everything. She's really amazing. She plays so many instruments and sings beautifully. Easy, dude. A little more, and the hearts in your eyes will pop out. Shinso joked. Kaminari suddenly blushed. She loves music. She's good at it. We are her friends. We have to encourage her to do what she loves. She doesn't know how amazing she is. How amazing is she to you? Shinso pointed out, and then his gaze focused on Izuku, as the blonde boy started to blush at Uraraka level. You will have restrictions, right? Izuku nodded. Grapes are forbidden. What? Mineta's scream was heard throughout UA. Do you remember when you wanted your last name to be your hero name? Suzuki asked. Ishikawa nodded. It's because of the Ishikawa diagram. Do you know it? Suzuki nodded and rolled her eyes. Also called fishbone diagram. She said. It made sense, but it was lousy anyway. It doesn't hurt, it burns it hurts me. Ishikawa squealed as he threw himself to the floor dramatically. No one helped him up. Moeta stepped over him. Don't be so dramatic about something that happened last year. Hinata, who was ironing the skirts, looked up. Isn't that exactly what we do with the Purge incident? Sisimiya blinked and snorted. It's another matter, he said. It was traumatic. Also, we can't get rid of that mark in our student's record. Ninasotaya growled. But teasing Sensei is hilarious. When Shota Aizawa entered his office, he was greeted by a laugh from Hisashi Yamada. A bunch of yellow sticky notes were taped to the wall. In the middle of everything, on top of his desk, was a large painting of Midoriya marked, Air. I should have expelled them permanently. He growled as Kiyama entered and joined Yamada's laughter. Even though he couldn't see it. He knew the rat was laughing from his office as he watched the cameras. I'm not paid enough. What happened? Izuku asked after seeing Ninasotaya, Ishikawa, and Sisimiya wearing maid uniforms. Fewer growled. They made a joke on Aizawa Sensei. The three boys claimed in unison. Don't f-dash, fewer. You laugh too. Ninasotaya screeched with his hands on his head. But not in front of him. She yelled as she pulled out a bag and handed it to Izuku. Here. Take your portrait. Izuku frowned and decided to see what was inside. He barely looked at a framed picture of him. He regretted doing it. Are you screwing me? Izuku groaned, reading the air on the frame. It happened a year ago. Ishikawa snorted. And it will continue to bother us until the day we die. You guys are immature. Hinata replied, throwing headbands at them. Sisimiya gasped. You gave us the idea. Hinata nodded. I didn't expect you to take it seriously. Izuku and Fua turned to look at her with serious expressions. Fua slapped her forehead with an open hand. You knew these idiots a year ago. You should have known they were going to take it seriously. Hinata groaned. When the day of the festival came, Izuku met up with Ai and Tagata in the morning. Hi, Ai. Izuku greeted, smiling. How is everything? The little white-haired girl looked at him with her big red eyes. Well, Lemillion told me that he has to do something and that I'll stay with you for a while. Izuku nodded. Lemillion has a few things to do with his class, but he'll join us later. He extended his hand to Eri. The girl took it and squeezed it hard. Yes, Eri. It will only take a few hours. Then I'll join you. Tagata promised and then looked up from her to Izuku. Didn't your classmates plan anything? Izuku denied. We have a maid and butler cafe, but I have permission from Nedzu and Aizawa Sensei not to participate because of my recovery. Tagata sighed before putting a smile back on his face. That sounds good. Are you going to see the guys from 1A? Izuku nodded. Uraraka, Asui, and Kirishima will be happy to see Eri. He said calmly before bowing to the little girl. We will go see Uravity and Froppy, plus a friend who also came to rescue you. It seems good? Yes. Eri said in a low voice. I want to be their friend and thank them. You will. Izuku replied. The guys from 1A were delighted with Eri. Midoriya senpai. Shinso called out to him from a corner, and Izuku approached. Yes. The green-haired boy asked without taking his eyes off Eri. Have you seen Zero? The purple-haired boy said. He went to buy some things, and he hasn't come back. All Class 1A students wore bright yellow suits. If he was honest, the color was too much for Shinso's tired expression. Izuku denied. Maybe, he's just stuck in line. Get back here. Hunter yelled as he tried to catch Gentle Criminal. I'm calling heroes. The man laughed. Young man. It's a bit rude to break into the crosswalk. He said as he used his quirk and made Hunter fall to the ground. The boy with the quirk tape stood up. I'll entertain you until the heroes arrive. Gentle Criminal sighed. I want to see you try. And then, Hunter jumped. Midoriya. Heido jumped excitedly. Eri. Hello, Heido-senpai. Izuku greeted. Eri raised her hand shyly. Will you win this year's pageant? The blue-haired girl sighed. I hope so. She sighed. It's my last year and dash. Kendo will win. An irritating voice interrupted Heido. The beauty of Class B will succeed overall. Izuku sighed as Eri squeezed his hand tighter. Hello, Minome-kun. The blonde, who was next to Kendo, looked at him confused. How do you know who I am? I don't think I ever officially introduced myself. Izuku ran his hand through his hair. My pleasure. I'm Midoriya Izuku, Class 2A, hero name, Void. Kendo greeted. Oh, a pleasure. How's everything going? She kindly asked as Minome widened his eyes in surprise. Giving Eri-chan a tour of the festival. Izuku replied calmly and then focused his gaze on Minome. Hey! I know you guys will have a joint training in a few weeks. Minome just nodded open-mouthed. Izuku didn't know what was worse, hearing him speak or seeing him surprised. After it, will you agree to see me in one of the gyms? I have an idea that could help you. Tagata joined them shortly after visiting Hatsume in the workshop and nearly dying in a robot explosion. They were in the cafeteria while Eri drank an apple soda. How's everything going? Tagata asked. A blonde scared me, but then Void made him shut up. Eri said calmly. His senpai looked at him with a question mark drawn on his expression. Izuku sighed. She means Minome. We ran into him when we visited Heido's senpai for the beauty pageant. Tagata nodded. His UA's black sheep. He replied jokingly. Izuku shook his head. He's an eccentric boy. He said calmly. Then we went to the support stand dash. The one that exploded? Tagata asked. The robot blew out smoke, and a girl screamed that her baby was dying. I hope she's okay and the baby too. Eri replied. Void took me out, running, and then we got this. She said, pointing to her soda. It's good. It tastes like apples. Tagata looked confused at him. Hatsume calls her inventions babies. Izuku clarified. Then we went to my class's maid and butler cafe and came here to wait for you. The blonde sighed before nodding calmly. My class is making a mirror room, but we've already lost a few people there. He commented. I suggest going to another event. Izuku nodded as he took out the brochure they had given him. In a few minutes, 1B's play starts and 1A's band performance. 1C? Tagata asked. Haunted house. Izuku replied and looked at him with an obviously not expression. Then, it will be the band performance. Tagata replied. The black sheep is in 1B. Izuku sighed. Stop calling him Black Sheep. The venue where the Class 1A concert would take place was crowded and dark. It didn't last long because Kaken's scream was heard, and then the explosions lit up the place. Gyro began to sing along with the instruments played by Kaminari, Yorozu, and Tokoyami. Many of the students were dancing on stage, and others were missing. He could see Zero, taking slow steps, as if he was tired, but he didn't see Shinso or AMR anywhere. He should have expected it. Most likely, they were supporting the special effects with Todoroki. Hero 2. Gyro sang excitedly. Asui grabbed Uraraka with her tongue, and the gravity girl took some people's hands, making them float. Yorozu released serpentines as Zero did with his tapes. AMR used his laser to illuminate the place, and Todoroki supported him with his ice. I have met so many heroes in my life. Gave me strength and courage to survive. Then, Ei smiled. Tagata smiled at the same time as thick tears spilled from his eyes. Izuku also cried, along with the blonde, while the little girl's eyes shone with amazement and pure happiness. Gave me the power to smile every day. Now it's my turn. To be the one. To make you smile. At that moment, Izuku could only think that the future looked as bright as Ei's smile. When winter came along with the festivities, it happened that a shadow began to emerge from the depths of society. This generation of heroes come more prepared and powerful than ever, do they? Right, Hinimoto. I'm sure we can trust our future heroes so that a tragedy like Deku City's never happens again. 9 days ago, in less than an hour, the city was destroyed by about 20 people. Fortunately, the victims have been considerably low, but this is a strategy of the villains that seek to demoralize the population and make them stop believing in heroes. What do you think, Kureishisu? Before, criticism would have rained down on heroes, but now, those criticisms have turned into shouts of encouragement. What do you think is the reason? Since the Camino incident, an era ended up. The fall of the symbol of peace. Villainous activity increased. It's a key moment for our society. All Might may no longer be a hero, but his very life gives many a reason to rise. Not to mention, Endeavor, the current #1 hero, who recently had to face a Nomyu and with Hawks, #2, defeated it. In these times, faith is fundamental. More than what you believe. We can trust this generation. I'm sure of that. The rise of the villains was mentioned a few months ago. Things this year have been brutal. We can be grateful that it's already ending. It's true. This year is almost over. Christmas is tomorrow. So, let's continue with the following report given by our colleague Soruhana about the offers if you want to make your last-minute purchases. Work studies will resume. Fua emmed as she threw herself on the sofa. This has never happened before. This time is supposed to be the quietest and most festive. She said with her face directly on the furniture. Hinata threw a cushion at her from where she was standing. Oi! Up! We have to decorate this for the party. Izuku laughed as he carried a table with Suzuki. I'm dying to try Sisimia's turkey. The girl sighed. He nodded. Ninasotaya's mochi is legendary. He replied as his mouth watered at the thought of the delicious taste of the dessert. They both left the table in the right place. Fua raised her face from the couch and looked at Izuku with a frown. Aren't you going to Wana's party? Izuku hummed. Just to see them for a few minutes and accompany Eri, but I'll be back here in less than an hour. At that moment, Ishikawa entered the common room, wearing a kitchen apron and a chef's hat. What are you doing standing around doing nothing? He demanded, waving a scoop. A Christmas party is not preparing itself. The four who were talking stood up straight and, putting their hand on their foreheads, they shouted. Yes, Captain Ishikawa. The boy just laughed, shaking his head. Let's get to work. Merry Christmas, Aizawa Sensei. Izuku greeted, entering his mentor's office. The man looked up from his papers and nodded. Merry Christmas, Midoriya. The green-haired boy ran his hand behind his neck and sighed before asking. This work studies has to do with what we talked about after the Kamino incident, right? His mentor dropped the pen before looking at him. For a reason, that interview is almost impossible to find. The commission doesn't want the public to be alarmed by something imminent. He said and gestured to Izuku to sit down. Izuku did so before growling. If there is a big operation, they are looking to train us as soldiers. Aizawa-sensei nodded. We don't know if we're going to need you all, especially considering the excess of heroes right now. But still, the commission decided this, and we can't refuse, no matter how much we want to. So, Izuku started while pinching the bridge of his nose. Deku is part of the rise of villains. I don't know, child. Aizawa slowly shook his head. At this rate, we too are just as ignorant as you are. Don't you have a party with your class? Aizawa-sensei asked him as Izuku escorted A to the 1A class dorms. Izuku nodded. I'll only be here for a maximum of half an hour. He replied as A, wearing a red Santa Claus suit that Class A had specially prepared, took a few little hops holding his mentor's hand in his own. He turned his head to the little girl. Are you ready for your first Christmas, Eri? The little white-haired girl stopped and nodded. I painted eggs to give to Uravity. Izuku blinked and could hear a loud sigh coming from Aizawa-sensei before he leaned down to Eri's height. What will you say when we enter the party? Eri blinked. Trick or treat. Izuku knew that he shouldn't laugh, but he wanted to do it with all his might because of the comical and tender situation, so he resisted. Aizawa-sensei sighed again. You're mixing them up. He said calmly. You come in and say Merry Christmas. The little girl tilted her head to the left. What about in health and sickness? Marriage. Izuku replied. Today, you just say Merry Christmas. Eri blinked multiple times as if her little brain was processing everything. Just Merry Christmas. Izuku smiled. It's Christmas. The little girl just nodded confidently and proceeded to keep jumping, this time on her own, letting Izuku and Aizawa-sensei walk behind her back. Wouldn't it have been better to just tell her about the holiday dates and events when they happen and not tell her all at once? He asked Aizawa-sensei in a whisper. His mentor gave him a dirty look before sighing. Kiyoma's fault. Put this on. Shinso said, handing him a green hat with a green fluff instead of the traditional white pom-pom. As he had imagined, all the students in Class A wore a Santa suit. It could be red or green. Shinso was wearing a red one. The unique thing of all was that, when paying attention to the pom-poms of the hats, they all had something distinctive of each student. Kaminari's had lightning. Uraraka's planet. Momo's a book. Among others. Shinso's had a little hanging brain. I'm surprised you accepted this. Izuku joked. The purple-haired boy sighed. Ashido and Kaminari are very convincing when they wish to be. He replied with a shrug. Even Bakugo is wearing one. Izuku blinked for a few minutes as he imagined little Kaken Grumpy in a Santa suit. His Christmas hat has an explosion, right? Shinso nodded. Hagekyu has nothing. He added with a shrug before frowning. Isn't Tagata-senpai coming? Izuku denied. His with to his class. Mine will be waiting for me in about 20 minutes. Then we better hurry up with the gift exchange. The first-year boy said quietly with a frown before looking up. Ashido. Shiro. Yorozu. Let's start the exchange that senpai left early. Izuku frowned while holding one of the tapes. But I didn't bring anything. How will you go about completing it? He asked Bakugo. He growled. We bought 2 more. He replied. We wanted it to be a surprise. Yorozu nodded. Don't worry, senpai. Izuku looked at the pile of boxes and bags in the center of the circle they had formed and gave a smile to A, who returned it to him. Sitting on one of the sofas, Aizawa Sensei watched while drinking a cup of coffee from a brand that Yorozu had brought from Colombia. From the eyes of his mentor, Izuku realized that he was enjoying it. 1. Ashido yelled. 2. Kaminari continued. 3. They all yelled in unison as they pulled on their tapes. The gifts flew into the air into the hands of the students. It must have been a slide of luck, the fact that the sword, Tokoyami's present, didn't fall by the edge on Eri, who had obtained it to the horror of Ojiro. Izuku smiled upon seeing Mochi's bag in his hands. I'm rich, he heard a female squeak and a thud. Next to him, Uraraka passed out with a pile of gold in her hands. Most likely, it was a gift from Yorozu. Shinso was scowling at an alternative rock record. Bakugo had glasses. Soto, a plush bunny. Ida, an orange hoodie. Mineta, a photo of Aomar. Mina, some weights. Gyro, a blanket. Among others. What seemed strangest to him was Kaminari with a tear while he watched a basketball. He was about to ask him until Shinso leaned in next to him and whispered, "That's one of the complimentary gifts." Apparently, Kaminari listened because he nodded. "At least, I like to play basketball." Izuku heard laughter coming from Class 2 as Dorm. The song All I Want for Christmas Is You was playing at full volume, and he smiled. He would never have imagined that he would be studying at UA. Much less being an underground hero. He never thought that he would have friends like the ones waiting for him behind that door, people who would put their grudges aside for his well-being, people who didn't care that he was quirkless. It never crossed his mind, the fact that All Might would no longer be his favorite hero, that it would be a Razorhead in that place. The fact that he would be a kind of big brother to an entire first-year class. Izuku knew something big was coming. That the peace and joy he felt would not last. But he allowed himself to ignore those negative feelings just for that night because it was Christmas. And the colored lights illuminated the bedrooms and surroundings. The music filled the atmosphere, along with the laughter and happy conversations. The aroma of delicious food lingered. And feelings of warmth spread through every student and UA staff member. He knocked on the door. He waited a few seconds until Fua opened the door. "It's Midoriya!" She yelled enthusiastically, and her eyes focused on his little green hat. "And he looks like a Christmas tree." His friend's laughter was heard inside. Ishikawa snorted before shaking his head. "Have you seen where you guys are standing?" Suzuki asked from one of the sofas holding a mug of hot chocolate. Both guys scowled at each other. "What are you talking about?" Fua asked in a nervous voice. Ninasotaya, who had a big half-nibbled turkey leg in his hand, pointed over his head. Izuku looked up and could feel his face turn into a tomato. "Mistletoe." He looked down at his friends with wide eyes. He could feel Fua tense next to him. Hinata smiled. "You know what to do under the mistletoe, right?" Fua started, waving her hands and shaking her head. "It's an American tradition. We're Japanese, we don't need to follow it." She exclaimed hurriedly. "I know you want it." Kawasaki, a girl with a dog mutation, said in a joking tone towards Fua before turning to see Izuku. "Just a little brush." Both Fua and Izuku looked at each other with fiery red cheeks. "A short one?" Fua asked as she brought her fingers together. Izuku nodded nervously. "Only 3 seconds?" The girl nodded. "Perfect." And then, slowly, they both approached trembling like jellies, their eyes closed, or at least Izuku's, and their lips poised. He felt Fua's soft, sugary lips on his, and they both kissed chastely. And Izuku would have to accept that it felt good. He remembered that it was his first kiss. He didn't know how long they had been there, but they had forgotten to count. He recognized that the girl's arms had wrapped around his neck, and he was cupping her face. "Fua Moeta." The girl greeted, extending her hand. "Emamidida yai Izuku." Izuku replied, trembling. "F them if they think you're weak for being quirkless." "Midoriya. Let's be a team. We got the licenses. Let's celebrate. I buy the milkshakes. Happy birthday, Midoriya. Thank you for being there, you are a great person. I'm happy to be your friend." "So am I, Midoriya. We will be heroes." Oi! It's already been 3 seconds. Ishikawa's voice exclaimed, completely breaking the little bubble in which they both had gotten themselves. Fewer slammed apart. Izuku saw that she was redder than at first, and Izuku knew that he was too. The girl said. Are we still friends? The other students in Class 2A started laughing outrageously at that. Go on a date, lovebirds. Suzuki exclaimed in a tired voice. He would like that. He hoped fewer would too. He turned to see her. Would you be comfortable if I asked you out on a date? The girl opened her eyes. Do you want to go on a date with me? She asked. Izuku nodded. I would like that, but only if you want to. Fewer shook her head up and down in assent. Yes. She yelled, before opening her eyes in panic and coughing. I would like it. She said in a calmer tone. Izuku's heart stopped for a few minutes before he started to grin. Fewer replied with a nod and stretched out her hand. Izuku took it, and they both intertwined their fingers. At last! Hinata squealed, lifting a giant turkey leg. Now, let's continue with the party. The gift exchange is waiting for us. And Izuku felt the tears want to come out of him from the edge of his eyes. Because in front of him was everything he had once dreamed. I'm so blessed. He whispered. So the night continued with Izuku hoping that the next Christmas party would be just as fun and that, hopefully, there would be more after their graduation. Look, Mom. Izuku caught his mother's attention as they both sat facing each other. The woman focused her gaze on the pink envelope between her son's fingers. Izuku smiled. Do you remember Ei? The girl we rescued from Overhaul? Inko Midoriya nodded, feeling her eyes start to fill with tears before Izuku could say anything to her. She wrote me a letter. Izuku enthusiastically said as he showed her the paper written with ugly handwriting and spelling mistakes. Tagata-senpai has been teaching her, and she learned to write this to me. Don't you think that's the sweetest thing? Happiness exploded over her emotions, and tears spilled out of her eyes uncontrollably. She couldn't help it. Izuku had always been like this. He was capable of giving his life for others, and sadly, his mentor couldn't make it clear to him that he should stop doing it so recklessly. She had already lost count of all the times the man had called her in a tired voice to inform her that her son was in the hospital or police station. But seeing him so happy, fulfilling his dream, and being a great person, made it all worthwhile. Mom, don't cry. You will flood the Koike family apartment. Bakugo went with Endeavor. Shinso asked, frowning. Izuku nodded. Originally, he wanted to go with Best Jeanist, but he's still missing. The fact that the #1 hero is going to teach him would make me jealous if the man didn't have such a trashy personality. The first-year student opined. Izuku shrugged. It's none of our business. Rather, I have a strange feeling about this work-studies thing. The purple-haired student widened his eyes in surprise. It has to do with that rare interview that took place after Camino, right? The one that the commission tried to erase from existence. The second year hummed at that. I only know that the villains are planning something. Everything is related. I can feel it. And you will continue feeling it. A female voice exclaimed from behind them. The silhouette took the form of Emi Fukukado, aka Miss Joke, who smiled at them. Catch Green Bean, she said, throwing something at Izuku. Both were in Miss Joke's agency with whom they would carry out their work studies. It wasn't a new experience. They were comfortable with the hero, and despite her teasing attitude, they couldn't deny that she was an amazing teacher. The green-haired student examined the book, frowning at the title, Meta Liberation War. Have you read Meta Liberation War? No, I haven't. What's IT about? If you give freedom to a limited number of people, then the negative consequences will go to others. Izuku groaned heavily before throwing himself onto the bed. He was feeling exhausted in many ways. First, going after a group of drug dealers had taken his breath away. Second, his head was cracking at the theories he was creating. Was everything related? He had conversed with Aizawa Sensei, and they had reached a consensus that something strange was happening in the underworld and society. It wasn't a coincidence. The year had been a complete madness that could end in hell if the heroes didn't react immediately. And work studies were the measure. They were taking, training them and preparing them for an imminent showdown. But, against what? The pros weren't very aware of it either, at least those other than Endeavor or Hawks. What was Hawks doing reading and distributing that book? The commission itself had tried to eliminate every feature of that interview. Was he a traitor? Izuku never trusted the winged hero. There was something fake about him, but he couldn't figure out what it was. What was happening? You are muttering, Midoriya-senpai. Shinso claimed with his face on the pillow on the next bed. Oh, excuse me. Izuku squealed as he sat up and ran his hands over his face. It's just that everything is so strange. The purple-haired boy turned and, without losing his eyes on the ceiling, sighed. I didn't expect to be attacked or kidnapped by villains in my first year in the hero course. Rather, I didn't expect to be in the hero course at all. Shinso laughed dryly. It seems that the universe detests me in every possible way. The green-haired boy snorted. Kaminari's right. You're a drama queen. Shinso jumped up from the bed. Did the Pikachu say that? I'm going to make him dance Gangnam Style in the dorms. Izuku frowned. What's Gangnam Style? Things were pretty quiet until, one night on patrol, Shinso's voice sounded on the comm. Reinforcement. He yelled through the apparatus. I have unconscious loops by my side. Miss Joke gave him a determined look and nodded confidently. We're on our way. Submit your location. Izuku could hear Shinso's heavy breathing and how he struggled to get his cell phone out. Within seconds he received the message. Here we go. What happened? Izuku asked as he ran after the Smile Hero. We were after a gang, and they were able to neutralize our attacks. Shinso replied. They injected something. They are unstoppable. Miss Joke frowned at it. Ryaku's agency was supposed to take care of the trigger. She said worriedly. They could have had responses. Izuku offered an alternative. The mission was successful. Uraraka stopped the plane and it couldn't be distributed. I don't know how much more I'll give. Shinso groaned. His voice sounded tired. At any moment, they will catch me and kill me. Izuku grunted as he checked the points symbolizing loops and Shinso's location. We're close, Mindjack. Just keep running. They arrived to watch Shinso's capture scarf wrapping around the neck of one of the villains and knocking him to the ground. The man was almost twice the height of the first-year student, so it didn't have much of an effect. Come, assholes. Are you so weak that you need a drag to be stronger? Shinso yelled with his quirk activated. The villain didn't respond and only dedicated himself to trying to catch him while the purple-haired boy dodged his movements like a slippery spider. Hey! Izuku yelled from the roof. An expression of relief crossed Shinso's face. Take this. The second year jumped up with his capture bandages. Outstretched, and Miss Joke sprang into action. I hate this. Shinso complained as he watched his leg dangle. Izuku laughed at the purple-haired boy's pout. Memories of Vietnam. The first year groaned at the joke. Not even Kaminari makes such bad jokes. Hey! Izuku claimed as he put his hand on his heart. I have a great sense of humor. Shinso snorted at the answer. The ones with a great sense of humor are twos, right, Midoriya? You don't dare. The green-haired student exclaimed with mock outrage. The purple-haired student gave him a sheet-eating smile before slowly nodding. Yes, I do. Izuku sighed and took his cell phone. Shinso narrowed his eyes at it. Izuku marked Miss Joke's number. Green bean. Miss Joke replied. How is everything? She asked. Shinso is awake and fine. His parents can come to see him. He said as he watched the first-year student's eyes pop open. Perfect. Smile Hero exclaimed. They're on their way. Thanks. Izuku finally said before cutting off and facing the purple-haired boy. Before Shinso could say anything, Izuku heard some sobbings before the door slammed open. A slim woman with blonde hair and teary violet eyes stood under the door frame with a surprised expression, Next to her, a man who was an adult version of Shinso, save for brown eyes, was left with an expression neutral. "Are you Shinso's parents?" Izuku asked. Both adults nodded. "I am Midoriya Izuku from Class 2A," he said, extending his hand. The man took it and squeezed it while the woman nodded as she slowly approached her son's bed. Shinso Hanmi. Shinso's father introduced himself before sighing as he watched as Mrs. Shinso began to touch her son's cheeks, and the boy's eyes flooded with panic. "Let's go to the hall. It's going to flood." Izuku blinked in confusion. "What do you?" He couldn't finish the question. "Hitoshi!" The tearful voice of the woman interrupted him. She reminded him to his mother when he received the UA admission letter and during his visits to the hospital. Mr. Shinso had already opened the door and invited Izuku to retreat with him to the safety of the corridor. The green-haired student followed him, ignoring the pleas of the purple-haired boy. "How was your work study, Midoriya?" Principal Nedzu asked as he poured tea into Izuku's cup. "Pretty good, though Shinso ended up with an injury in the hospital," Izuku commented as he appreciated the warmth the cup provided. The principal hummed at it as he drank from his tea himself. "Heard over there, you got a book from Hawks," he said the chimera calmly. Izuku nearly choked on his tea before nodding. "You know something, right?" Nedzu's smile widened at that. "Not much, but I'll tell you when it's time." "And when will it be time?" Izuku asked, feeling anxiety running through his body. "When we have all the pieces of the puzzle," Nedzu replied. "Now, can you tell Aizawa and Yamada to come to see me? I have a matter for them to resolve. Please watch the class. I have to go with Yamada to resolve an issue." Aizawa-sensei's message was clear and precise. Nedzu called Aizawa and Yamada-sensei to his office and gave them a matter. It seemed important enough for both men to leave their classes. "Have a cotton candy, young Midoriya," All Might told him as he handed Izuku the candy. Izuku took it. "Thanks," he replied while taking a bite. "What is this about?" "The mood is somewhat tense, and I thought it would be good to ease it," the man replied as they watched the boys perform their newest special moves. He looked at Ayama's naval laser, and Izuku smiled at the surprised reaction of the other students who were enjoying their cotton candy. Then Hagakyo followed, deflecting Ayama's laser light, and finally, Ashido covered herself in her own acid and melted one of the bots. "And that's how we get it done," the pink-haired girl exclaimed enthusiastically. "Fantastic! Let's give them a round of applause," Ida yelled as the rest of the class applauded. All three students had done their work studies with equipped hero, Yoroi Musha. "Wow!" Izuku couldn't help but get excited. "I see you have made a lot of progress." The first-year students hadn't noticed him and saluted. Ashido smiled. "Did you see my acid man?" Izuku nodded, and the girl turned in Kirishima's direction. "It's my version of Unbreakable." Kirishima smiled even more. "Cool." The rest of the students proceeded to demonstrate their movements. Ojiro and Soto, who had interned with the lion hero, Shishido, had increased their strength and reaction time. Gyro and Shoji had interned with Gangwalker and improved their search techniques. Kaminari, Zero, and Mineta had been alongside Shiozaki from Class B and had gone with the Lurkers team, getting team moves. Ida felt more confident and faster after his work study with Manual. Koda had been with Wash in improving his communication. Tokoyami had been one of the ones who had made the most progress, especially since his work study had been with Hawks, whom Izuku didn't trust much, but he had helped the first-year student a lot. Then Kirishima with Fat Gum, where he had done some missions. Uraraka, who had changed her suit and used it with wires to hold debris inspired by Zero, and Asui in Ryukyu's agency. Shinso was handling new techniques with his capture scarf without needing to move his leg much. Finally, Bakugo and Todoroki had greatly improved. If only the future were as clear as the sky, without any cloud in it, Izuku might have allowed himself to think so naively how he had done at the school festival upon seeing Eri smile. Even though everything seemed joyous, with no storm clouds approaching, Izuku knew that these were times of peace that would soon disappear. He could feel it. "Young Midoriya," All Might called him. Izuku looked up. Tomorrow, meet me and young Tagata. We have a situation. And Midoriya? Kawasaki asked. His with 1A. Ishikawa replied as he checked his cell phone. Hinata made a sound similar to a deflated balloon as she nodded. It was obvious. Earlier today, did you see Sensei? Ninasotaya frowned. Grumpy? You mean, like always? The girl shook her head. Nor, worse than that. Like that time when he expelled us. Sisimiya widened his eyes in surprise. Oh. I guess he wasn't at max grumpiness when he did that. Suzuki groaned as she put her hands on his head. I still get nightmares thinking about the way he told us we were through. Sure. Moata interrupted. It scared, but it also helped us grow. You sound like Midoriya. Hinata said, throwing a ball of paper at her. I know we got better, but was it necessary? Exactly. Ninasotaya supported. Expel us? There's gotta be a better way to give someone a warning. Now everyone in Class 2A, except your boyfriend, has a stained record. Kawasaki complained. Erase ahead. Hinata huffed. More like derange ahead. He's not my boyfriend. Midoriya. Heido saluted as she looked up from the notebook. I didn't know you were coming. I finished with the first years and wanted to see how Eri was doing. Izuku replied. The blue-haired girl smiled. Thanks for coming. I have a question to ask Ectoplasma Sensei. Could you watch her for a few minutes? She asked. Izuku nodded. Don't worry. I'll take care of her. When Yamada Sensei left, and Eri was taking her nap, Izuku felt that it was the right time to be able to converse with his mentor. The man was sitting on the couch, staring blankly. What's happening, Aizawa Sensei? Izuku asked. The man grunted in response. Many things are happening, child. Izuku sighed. I talked with Nedzu. The green-haired boy said and could see how his mentor focused his gaze on him. He told me that something big was happening. Aizawa Sensei nodded. But you had already seen it coming. Izuku hummed at it. It's as if the clouds in the sky are clearing to let us see the last rays of the sun before everything sinks into darkness. The black-haired man's breathing stilled. Aizawa Sensei. Izuku said worriedly. Are you okay? Do you want water? The man didn't respond, just returned to his blank gaze as his eyes watered. The visit to Tartarus left my eyes dry. He answered. Tartarus? Had they gone there? Whatever they had seen there, it had affected them. Aizawa Sensei needed time alone to process it. It would be better if Izuku wasn't there. I'm leaving. Izuku said as he got up from the couch. Excuse the interruption. After saying that, he headed for the door. There was a boy, Aizawa Sensei said with a raspy voice. His name was Shirakumo, and you remind me a lot of him as the rest of the Hellspawns. Izuku widened his eyes in surprise before turning to see his mentor. Excuse me? His teacher rose from the seat and put his hand on Izuku's shoulder. Problem child, take care of yourself. Get it? Izuku nodded. It's a promise that I'm trying to keep. UA second-year student dies crushed by building in villain attack. Shirakumo. Oboro, the aspiring hero who rests next to the clouds he has created. An unfulfilled dream, Shirakumo Oboro, UA student, dies in villain attack. The story of Aizawa Shota, the student who defeated a villain on his own and lost a friend in the confrontation. The clouds look beautiful to rest. Izuku said, remembering how Aizawa Sensei had put on when he mentioned them. Hopefully the weather isn't a sign. Tagata had a mutation of his quirk. Izuku said in exasperation, glancing at both blondes sideways. He needs your support for it. In front of them were Heido, Amajiki, Uraraka, Shiro, and Asui. Oh! Heido Senpai exclaimed. You mean what happened in our joint training? Right. Tagata nodded. I'm grateful that it could also be made intangible. I wouldn't know what could have happened if it wasn't. Izuku coughed to get attention. Well, apparently, Tagata also developed the ability to float, and it would be amazing if Uraraka and Heido would help him. As long as Asui, Shiro and a Magiki support him with. How do you call it? He said, frowning and looking at Tagata. A whip, right? Tagata nodded. Black Whip is the official name. Izuku watched as All Might stiffened but didn't say anything before turning his attention to the others. Okay. Let's start. Izuku watched Tagata float alongside Uraraka and Heido, who explained the dynamics of keeping the body straight and not spinning like a windmill. So he will acquire the quirks from the other wielders, right? Izuku said. All Might nodded. One for All is a legendary quirk. You know the story behind it. Each wielder has strengthened it until Tagata. He's the strongest wielder of all. Tagata Mirio was everything Izuku had aspired to in a moment. He was confident, strong, with an amazing quirk, and the ability to make everyone smile. Anyone who was going to be All Might's successor could point to Tagata. It was impossible to see him and not directly related to All Might. Tagata Mirio and Yagi Toshinori were the kind of people Izuku aspired to be when he was in middle school, and his room was crammed with All Might merchandise. As much as Izuku had kept trying to be like them, he knew that wasn't feasible. He couldn't be a hero that people would look at and say, "You saved us, we're thankful." No. Izuku was going to be the type of hero that villains want nothing to do with. A hero who will help people like him. Tagata is a great person. Izuku said. If anyone could be a great one for all wielder, it's him. He's perfect for it. The peace symbol sighed at it. You too, young Midoriya. He answered. You would have been a magnificent wielder. Izuku shook his head. Our interests are different. Saving people? All Might asked. That's the common heroic interest. Whoever inherits One for All should be someone who can carry light for people. The green-haired child commented. If you had asked me when we first met, I would have said yes without hesitation. All Might frowned. What? Changed? Izuku snorted. Besides the realistic answer you gave me? He could see the pillar lowered his head. Everything. I realized that I can be an incredible hero without a quirk. I'm satisfied with the path I'm following. The ex-hero inhaled heavily before exhaling. It's a good trail. You completely shut my mouth. It's what I've done the most over the years. Izuku commented. I'm sorry to have doubts about you, young Midoriya. All Might said. Was he seriously apologizing to Izuku? If that had happened when he was a first year, he would have started crying. Recognizing All Might, his inner child was jumping. The man could act like an idiot many times, especially considering that he was a bad teacher who gave his lessons to Izuku, but he tried to be better. Or so it seemed. I don't hate you. Izuku replied. I just don't admire you anymore. Yagi Toshinori frowned. You don't hate me? You broke the heart of my 14-year-old self. You underestimated me for being quirkless, and you are a lousy mentor to Tagata. Izuku blurted out. But I can't deny that you are a good person and have improved this year. Yagi-san sighed. I think, feeling vulnerable has taught me that. Imagine feeling the same way since you were 4 years old. Izuku replied. Believe me, I understand you. The blonde man said. Izuku's eyes snapped open. I was quirkless too, young Midoriya. What? And, it was true. Yagi Toshinori, aka All Might, had been like Izuku. A quirkless boy with no chance of being a hero. So you're a hypocrite too. Izuku snorted. Yagi-san hummed lightly. You could put it like that, he accepted calmly, but I could never have been a quirkless hero. I spoke from my experience. I didn't know you and gave an opinion, reflecting on you. Because you are succeeding, young Midoriya. You are being a hero. When the training ended, only Izuku and All Might remained. There was something to discuss. The death and quirk of the fourth wielder are crossed out. Izuku pointed out, looking suspiciously at the blonde adult. Why? You even found the cause of death from the fifth onwards. It's just a small thing. All Might responded by scratching the back of his neck. Izuku wasn't going to believe that. What are you hiding? Have you noticed something that would put Tagata at risk? I would never put young Tagata in a risky situation without any backup plan. Yagi-san exclaimed, sounding a bit offended. All for One is the one who basically created One for All, right? Izuku said seriously. Isn't it an offshoot of his power? Multiple quirks. The blonde man nodded heavily. I don't want to speculate and talk about things I'm not sure. But I'm trying to find it out as quickly as possible. I hope so. Izuku replied. I promised Night Eye that I would be by his side. Even if One for All is a cursed power and so is Tagata. The next day, heading for Principal Nedzu's office, Tagata stopped him in the middle of the corridor. Midoriya! He greeted. Enthusiastically. Thanks for yesterday. I feel like I'll be a better hero because of you. Izuku smiled at it. I only give advice, you execute it. We make a good team, right? The blonde nodded. Absolutely. Yagi Toshinori and Tagata Mirio were like two sons. But they came from different planetary systems. Because each one was his own person, even though they both carried the same burden. The same cursed legacy. Yagi Toshinori had already been a hero. Tagata was about to be one. But what was a hero? Void and Lemillion, even though they weren't graduates, were heroes to Eri. Shinso was a hero to Kota Izumi. All Might had been the #1 hero for years. Eraserhead was not known, but he had been a hero to so many people who would never have time to thank him. Midnight was a hero, not just for defeating villains, but for defying the system to gain freedom in female costumes. Present MIC was a hero who enjoyed music and did activism for his radio show. Vlad King fought quirk discrimination. Heroes came in different shapes and sizes. Shoji would be a hero, as would Ojiro, Ashido, Koda, Asui, and Hagakure. Minoma and Shinso would be heroes. Just as Gang Orca and Eraserhead were. Miruko and Hawks. Yagi Toshinori and Tagata Mirio. All Might and Lemillion.